Welcome to Yahoo Sports Daily, coming at you live in person from San Francisco. It is Super Bowl 60 week. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Remember, different time this week for us, 9 to 11 Pacific. We're going to be hanging out with you, and we've got everything covered. Massive guest today, Frank Caliendo, going to join us on set, so we'll get some funny, incredible impressions from him. Of course, Matt Harmon, Dan Titus, too. We've got a lot to get to. Robert Kraft not in the Hall of Fame, NBA trade rumors. Everything is everywhere, but we start at the Super Bowl, obviously, where you're here right now. And the game is only a few days away. And the funny thing is we can never just let the moment be the moment. We got to look 10 steps further down the road. Always. So, Caroline, with the Super Bowl right around the corner, the question is, which team has a better chance of becoming a dynasty? The motto, this is what we love. NFL is all about teams that dominate year in and year out. We saw it with the Patriots. We saw it with the Chiefs. We saw it before then with the Cowboys, 49ers. Every era has a dynasty. Which of these two teams do you think is better situated to create the beginning of that right now?
First of all, let me just say, I feel like as sports fans, we're all like Veruca Salt from Willy Wonka. Like, we want more, we want more. I want more, Daddy. And you can't just have one championship. You can't just have one trip to a Super Bowl and say, man, that was a really fun and exciting year. Go my team. It's always like, if you don't win 3 of the next 5, this year was a disappointment and everyone should be fired. But to your point, Fitzy, I think it's the New England Patriots. I think the New England Patriots are better suited to become the next dynasty for a couple of reasons. One, you got a young quarterback. You got Drake May on a rookie deal in his second year in the NFL. Being able to capitalize when your quarterback is on his rookie deal, I think, is massive, because then you can allocate that much more money elsewhere. So you have a young quarterback who's still on a rookie deal. You have a young team around him. You have a rookie left tackle. I mean, the New England Patriots' average age is around 25 and a half. And there's a lot of older aging pieces that the Patriots can move on from and just get younger. I'm looking at the wide receiver position, I think that's absolutely a position that the Patriots will and should upgrade in this upcoming offseason. You also have a coach that's been around longer. I mean, look, Mike Macdonald, I think, is one of the most well-respected and best coaches in the NFL for good reason. But look, Mike Vrabel's coached a lot of football, seen a lot of football, and has also lost a lot of football games. I think there's value in learning from what went wrong, because a lot went wrong in his time at Tennessee. I also think, Fitzy, too, this is an organization that's been a dynasty before. This is an owner that knows what a dynasty looks like, knows what his role in a dynasty. So much of what we view of a team's success, or maybe lack thereof, we can always point to ownership. Competent, great ownership, or incompetent ownership, where an owner just cannot get out of his own team's way. Cough, cough, Jerry Jones. Robert Kraft knows what it takes to be the owner of a dynastic football team. I know that there's no Brady coming through the doors. I know Gronk's not going to come save you. I know Julian Edelman isn't coming out of retirement anytime soon. But this is an organization that has been able to facilitate a dynasty in the past.
I hear you. And again, this is where Patriots fans feel like I'm a hater. I'm not. I'm just a super logical guy with no emotion. To me, a super logical guy says the Patriots are better suited to be the Washington Commanders next year than they are the beginning of a dynasty. Like a year ago right now, we were all sitting here saying, oh my God, Jaden Daniels has turned around Washington for the first time ever. We're not talking about the controversy. We're actually talking about Washington, the football team. I said that on Inside Coverage. We all talked about this step forward. But if you looked at a bunch of the numbers on it, and if you went back and rewatched the season, the reason people over the summer told you the Commanders were going to take a step back is because it wasn't sustainable metrics. It was a team that was very lucky. Better to be lucky than good. I understand why Patriots fans are already exhausted hearing about the fact that they've played a soft schedule and they haven't played great offenses in the playoffs. I get it. And frankly, you shouldn't care. You're in the Super Bowl. Who gives a damn what anybody thinks about the way you got there? You're in the Super Bowl. But to me, when I look at all of that stuff, it's just harder for me to find a way for that to replicate. Like, as soft as this schedule turned out to be this year, again, no fault of the Patriots, look at some of what it looks like next year. Next year, the AFC East, particularly, they got to play that division, fine. But they also have to play the AFC West. They also have to play the NFC North. They play a lot of good teams. I think the Patriots are they're a team that is capitalized on the moment, and that's incredible. But when we look at that and say, now, what does that mean for the future moving forward? I don't think we can know the answer to that. So certainly what I look at from Seattle, and the reason I would say Seattle's more poised to go on a run right now, is because Seattle has more proof of concept with the pieces that they do have, right? So as much as I love Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, and I think he's a cheat code for the Patriots, I love Mike McDonald, the head coach, and I think he's a cheat code for the Seahawks defense, right? You talk about youth. Sam Darnold's 28 years old. So, like, at some point, we have to just stop with these Sam Darnold isn't all that conversation. And at some point, we have to acknowledge 14 wins, 2 years in a row. Last year, Justin Jefferson was runaway the premier wide receiver in the NFL. This year, it's like, well, maybe it's Jackson Smith and Jigba. What's the through line? Yeah, it's not that Sam Darnold is out here the modern John Elway, but Sam Darnold sure as hell deserves a lot of the credit for it, and he's not going anywhere. They got some contracts they got to work out. Guy Kenneth Walker III, I think, is a big piece for them. But I look at Seattle and I say, you know what? I've seen more building blocks for continuity, more building blocks for success. We saw Seattle take a step forward last year, a leap forward this year. I think the Patriots are just ahead of schedule. I believe Drake May can be the answer, and I believe he can be one of the true quarterbacks in the AFC you can rely on. I believe that's there for him. I also think that they're ahead of their skis right now. So I just think all of this is true at once. And while we're talking about the Patriots, we should talk about the breaking news we got this morning. Robert Kraft, we've learned, and again, I don't know how we're getting so many leaks. Usually the Hall of Fame is one of those things. I've covered the Super Bowl now for several years. I don't remember ever hearing leaks like we're hearing now. No. But we found out today the breaking news that Robert Kraft will not be enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, Jory, our great Jory Epstein, the great reporter for us, has talked a lot about how the Kraft family cares immensely about this. Yeah. Kraft has put a lot behind the momentum of wanting to get this induction. So this has to be a heartbreaking moment, and this continues a conversation where if you're a Patriots fan, you're looking around and saying, what in the hell are voters thinking?
Well, Robert Kraft belongs in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I also don't think that it's right, it feels right, that Robert Kraft would be voted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame before Bill Belichick. Look, Robert Kraft will be. I think he should be a Hall of Famer. Whenever you're an owner that's won 6 Super Bowls, has overseen one of the greatest dynasties that we've ever seen in this sport, then yes, you can't tell the story or the history of the National Football League without talking about those Patriots teams, without Robert Kraft's ownership of those Patriots teams. So I think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I also don't think it would be right if he was in it before Bill Belichick. But we can talk all day long about how Bill Belichick belongs in the Hall of Fame. Obviously, he does. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He has one of the best resumes of any other coach that's ever coached this sport. Robert Kraft belongs in the Hall of Fame. Sure, we can debate that all day long if you disagree with me, and if you do, that's fine. But I think this just goes back to me, Fitzy. This is an issue with the entire process. Yeah. This is an issue with the entire process of Hall of Fame voting. The fact that you only have a finite number of contributors that can be eligible for Hall of Fame voting every year. So we're talking about general managers, we're talking about media people, we're talking about owners. Well, can it just be, hey, this guy belongs in the Hall of Fame and he's eligible to be in the Hall of Fame, instead of pitting potential Hall of Famers against one another? Like, why is the process for players so much different than it is for coaches and for owners and for general managers? It doesn't make any sense. You're not accurately telling the story and the history of professional football if it's this guy versus this guy instead of just who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. The process is so convoluted, and I feel like this year, more than any other year in history, is exposing how flawed the process is.
Yeah, I feel like at some point I have comfort knowing Kraft didn't get in because Bill didn't get in. And to me, yes, Belichick is clearly a Hall of Famer. I'm going to say loud and proud, I don't care if any owner ever is kept out of the NFL Hall of Fame. Like, the greatness of your organization are the people that put everything on the line to do it. Because you were a billionaire that happened to get an NFL team and then you wrote checks to the right people, that doesn't, frankly, I could see the argument for contributors on guys like Jerry Jones that changed the league and the way they monetize it and they changed the TV deals. I guess they need to have that. If I was the NFL Hall of Fame, you have so few owners over the course of your history, just have an owner's wing where you celebrate every owner that's ever been lucky enough to be the select billionaire that gets to own a franchise. I see that. I feel like there's some level of one of the weirdest things to me in the NFL is that the minute a team wins, the first thing they do is hands the owner the trophy. It's like, you know what? The owner didn't come up with the game plan. The owner didn't go out on the field. The owner just wrote the checks. So I will never have a hard time with Robert Kraft not getting in the Hall of Fame when Belichick didn't get in the Hall of Fame. Like, it's amazing that he wrote the checks to Belichick. It's amazing that he was obviously in the office to put that together. But I have a hard time finding Hall of Fame out of that if I didn't find Hall of Fame out of Belichick. But you're right. The process shouldn't be this complicated. No. If we have a very clear person not in the Hall of Fame, which goes back to Belichick, that should be, and everybody says, well, you don't really understand the process. I don't want to understand the process at that point.
The process doesn't make sense.
I now understand that the process is broken. So the NFL needs to look at this because Roger Goodell yesterday kind of skated around it and said, these gentlemen, I'm sure will get into the Hall of Fame at some point. I just hate that answer. Like, you're either a Hall of Famer or you're not. Who you're up against this year shouldn't be the reason you did or didn't get into it. Like, having having some conversation about Robert Kraft versus Bill Belichick versus Kenny Anderson, the Bengals quarterback. Like, I don't even understand how you look at the three of those three same people through the same lens, but that's what they asked voters to do. It's just failed.
Well, and there are so many players in the Hall of Fame that I'm sure have made any and all of us raise our eyebrow a little bit. Like, really? Does this guy belong in the Hall of Fame? Does this guy deserve to be enshrined in the highest honor of the sport? Good for them for being in it, but like, yeah, does he really belong? But Bill Belichick, it's not even a question. Robert Kraft, if we're going to have any owners in the Hall of Fame, and I do hear your argument on not having owners in the Hall of Fame, but if you're going to have any owners in the Hall of Fame, Robert Kraft belongs in the Hall of Fame. So clearly the process is flawed. When you have a hands down, no question, no doubt about it candidate that isn't in over players that are like, yeah, they were good. They were really good, but are they Hall of Famers? There's just so much wrong with the process, and it opens itself up to so much subjectivity.
Yeah, it's also wild to me when we look at all of this because Belichick is already talked about constantly with the lens of, well, he didn't win without Brady. That's a thing we hear about Belichick.
Will Brady be a first ballot Hall of Famer?
In my mind, he should be.
1,000%
But if we're sitting here...
I thought Bill should be too.
Exactly. Like, if we're taking it against Bill, what are we going to do with Brady? And then, but beyond that, like, Robert Kraft is also the same person that just hired Gerard Mayo. And he made it 1 year. Now, I think sometimes having the you-know-what to the guts to turn around and say, I made a hiring mistake, and then turn around to Vrabel has turned out to be a very smart move for Robert Kraft. I give him credit for that. But the same owner that we're saying, yeah, but he discovered Bill. Well, it's not that Robert Kraft went out and discovered Brady. Like, he just wrote the checks. So I have a hard time feeling some sort of sympathy for Robert Kraft. It still comes back to that gut, visceral reaction we're all having a week later. The fact that Bill Belichick is not in the Hall of Fame flat out lessens this entire Hall of Fame class. I feel bad for whoever's going to be inducted because the conversation will be, where was Belichick? The conversation will be compared to Belichick in every way. I feel bad for that, but most importantly, Roger Goodell, you need to look at the Hall of Fame voting process, figure out how to fix it, figure out how to simplify it, and figure out how to make sure Hall of Famers get into the Hall of Fame. All right, we got plenty of football from right now to continue to break down, including wide receiver Jerome all over the place. And who's the best receiver in the league? Matt Harmon breaks it down better than anybody. He'll join us next.
Kirby may not win another national title. I think he's the best head coach in college football right now. So it sounds kind of like an oxymoron. It's not. Well, it's possible I'm wrong that he's the best. But even if I'm right that he is the best, yeah, it's possible that he won 2 of them back-to-back years, and that's it. That's what Dabo Swinney did. He won a couple, and then I don't think Dabo will ever win another national title. What does that mean? It means he's one of the best to ever do it, and he's a Hall of Famer. That's what it means for Dabo Swinney.
All right, so let's talk about fights we want to see 2026. GC, you just gave us a nice little teaser there, so why don't you go first?
My concrete one, my number one that I want to see is still remaining Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev. Whether it's at 170, whether it's Islam going down to 155, the star power that these two guys have with the run that Islam is on, with the undefeated record of Ilia Topuria, it's just a match that I am craving more than any other.
Isaiah Stewart is underrated, Sharp. Way underrated. 37% from three. It's a really good pick. People think about Isaiah Stewart as this tough guy who can shoot, good at rim finisher and all that too. But in reality this year, he's become all defensive player candidate. He's become a great switch defender. Isaiah Stewart, one of the most underrated players in the whole league.
The NFL's so brutal, man. It's such a brutal. I thought to myself when Jonathan Gannon got fired, I thought, did they not just wish him a happy birthday? They did.
Hey.
They wished him a happy birthday, and then they fired him on the same day. So that's the NFL, folks. That hook is real. It's out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad. It's bad to be fired. He does, however, get a lovely parting gift.
There are going to be many teams with more cap space than they could possibly use this offseason, especially given what's making it to the free agent market in most cases will make for a fascinating offseason. That from the dashingly good-looking and wildly intelligent Matt Harmon, who joins us right now on the show. And Harmon, I am interested in this because you're right? The salary cap number came in higher than most people expected. And as a result, it's just a reminder that teams will have more money to play with, but that doesn't always mean that there's talent out there to spend that money on?
Yeah. Can I just say the only thing more unpleasant than hearing the sound of your own voice is hearing someone read your words back to you. So thank you for that as a welcome to the show. Yeah, no, but I do think this offseason is going to be really fascinating because at this point, every NFL team has more cap space than they know what to do with, for the most part, outside of like maybe 3 to 5 exceptions, and they can play games with that cap space. So really there's no excuse to like, oh, we can't fiscally afford this guy or that guy. But the problem is that because all these teams have this cap space, there's not going to be that many intriguing players in the open market. Now, this Super Bowl is a great example of you can add guys that will make a big difference, right? Both of these teams have done that, but it's not these big flashy signings. It's more the stuff on the margins and then guys who outkick expectations like Milton Williams for the Patriots.
Malik Willis doesn't do it for you?
I mean, he definitely does it for me, for sure. But, like, that's the level of player we're talking about, like a speculative starting quarterback.
So what's it mean for JSN? Because everybody's talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba right now, and is he the best wide receiver in the NFL?
That's the thing. Like, these homegrown players like that where you draft, you develop, it's a home run pick by the team. There's no excuse to have this, like, oh, we're haggling over this million or that million. Like, that's a deal that just needs to get done because at this point, yeah, I do think he's established himself. Whether you want to say he's the best receiver in the NFL, he's clearly established himself as a tier 1 receiver, which to me is a small, select group of players that can exceed regardless of their surroundings and their ecosystems. But he's a guy that's in a really good ecosystem, has really good surroundings, and I think they should try to lock up for the long term.
You can talk about that tier 1, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, JSN. If whoever you want to, choose as the number 1 out of that group, I'm not going to be upset.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
That's lovely that we agree. I'm so glad that we feel that way. But if we just look at this game in the Super Bowl, is JSN the best player that will be on the field on Sunday?
I think probably, yeah. Other contenders would be on the Patriots side. I mean, Drake May, I think, has to be considered that, even though hasn't had a great playoff run. I think we all know what he's capable of. It's crazy to me, by the way, he's 23 years old, and, just watching him run in that AFC Championship game, like, man, that guy's 23, and he still at times looks like Bambi out there. Like, imagine what he's going to be when he fully grows into himself as a physical presence, and he's already this good. So I think he's a good contender there. I think Christian Gonzalez, Patriots cornerback, is another name to mention. And then on the Seattle side, too, I do think we've gotten into this weird phase where we just kind of talk about the Seahawks defense as this conglomerate, and Mike McDonald gets most of the credit. But, Leonard Williams, Devin Witherspoon, those are 2 names I'd throw out in terms of best player. But I think if I was actually to sit down and rank it, like, relative to his position, JSN's probably the top contender in this game.
The most surprising part of the NFC Championship game to me, frankly, was that he had 100 yards receiving in the first half for the 3rd time this season against a team that knew better than anybody what was coming. Why is he getting so open?
Well, it's a great point because everybody in the stadium knows that ball's going to number 11. That's where he has an outrageous share of the team's air yards, targets, whatever. Everybody knows they want to get that ball to JSN, but I think Clint Kubiak, Fitzy, got to be pretty excited. Raiders next head coach. He's shown a great ability to, all regular season, JSN, who was one of the most slot-heavy players in the NFL in his first 2 years, he was almost exclusively an outside guy, 17.5% snaps in the slot. But then in the playoffs, you're seeing him line up in the slot. You're seeing him go into the backfield. And that just creates these mismatches because like wide receiver has changed so much since I started, charting the position for reception perception back in 2014. Back then, it's like your number one was almost always that outside X receiver. Now, if your number one is lining up at X at 80%, 90% of their snaps, you're either you're telling us one of two things. One, you're committing coaching malpractice, or two, you don't think that guy's very good. So because of that, like it's much more difficult to bracket that player if they're moving around to all three receiver positions. And it's when you're watching the game on the broadcast, you're not seeing a guy like Rashid Shaheed clear out space for JSN. So there's just so many dynamics that go into it beyond just the individual player's talent and being an elite separator, which JSN is as well.
I also don't think it's a coincidence necessarily that we're talking about Sam Darnold's career renaissance, career reclamation.
Yeah.
Starting in Minnesota last year when you have Justin Jefferson, one of the best receivers in the National Football League, and then now in Seattle. Now he's quarterbacking the Super Bowl with Jackson Smith and Jigba. I always believe that when there's credit and when there's blame to give, like it's a pie. It's not just one person. So when we give a credit pie to Sam Darnold's career renaissance, how much goes to the JSNs and the Justin Jeffersons that he's been surrounded with, and how much go to just Sam Darnold has blossomed into the quarterback that we see him now today?
We need like a full let's get all this stuff out of here and like do little slices of the table here because this is a good illustration. But I think that Sam's got to
move my stuff.
Yeah, right. Just get that out of here. Sam's got to take a pretty big slice here because I think what's good about Darnold is that he is like you live by the sword, you die by the sword type quarterback. He's a reckless player. He will throw the ball down the field, which gets him in trouble every now and again. But it also is he's going to take throws that other quarterbacks are not willing to make. And when you're surrounding talent as some of those guys, he was no disrespect, playing with in New York, it's just totally different than, okay, you've got a guy in Justin Jefferson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and two coaching staffs, again, who weaponize that player to line up at all three receiver positions. It's just a much different assignment at that point, a much different comfort level, and I think that matters a lot for a quarterback.
You mentioned Justin Jefferson. Let's stick there for a second because obviously he's not mincing a lot of words, right, at this point about where they could have been. And we've heard a lot about J.J. McCarthy, and it has everybody thinking maybe there's a shot that he could ask for a trade. I don't know if that will happen, but in your mind as a fantasy football expert, as a wide receiver expert, is there a spot that you're like, God, I really wish Justin Jefferson could find his way out of Minnesota and end up in?
How realistic do you want me to be in this?
I mean, give me one way out there and then give me one realistic.
Okay, well, the one way out there one, just again, I mentioned most teams have more cap space than they possibly know what to do with. One of those teams that doesn't really is Buffalo. Now, they can certainly move things around and do a lot to get some more cap space, but that would be a natural connection, not just because Justin Jefferson is awesome and they do not have a lot of great receivers there in Buffalo at this point, but he has familiarity with Joe Brady, who was the passing game coordinator at LSU for that. I don't have to tell you this, Caroline, for that historic season, and Justin Jefferson obviously was there for that. So there is a level of familiarity there between those two guys. That's a natural connection. But again, cap space wise, realistic wise, probably not there. In terms of one that is a little bit more feasible, there are a lot of interesting teams that have a ton of cap space, like the Chargers, I think, they've got a good set of receivers, but he would come in there and immediately give them like a gravity-changing number one option. San Francisco is another one of those teams as well. So, I mean, there's not many teams that you would sit down and be like, well, we really couldn't use Justin Jefferson, but those are two like realistic ones I think that come to the top of mind.
If we want to talk more about the 2019 LSU team, we can totally get into that. Yeah, I mean, just why not?
Yeah, how long does this show go for? We can just spend the rest of it.
Yeah,
3 hours on that.
Okay, cool.
We'll add a couple of
yeah, that's a good. I don't have anything else going on today.
Yeah,
actually, now it's all day. Now it's an all day. It's like one of those call-in telethon things. Like we're just
24 hours.
24 hours of coach up.
Yahoo Sports Daily-a-thon here for the entire week of the Super Bowl. There are guys where it's just like, look, everybody has a price. I understand that. But there are guys that are like, I mean, you're going to have to blow me away. Mm-hmm. What would a realistic trade offer even be for Justin Jefferson to make it worthwhile for the Minnesota Vikings?
Oh, my God. I mean, think about, we just talked about like Buffalo making that trade potentially. I mean, they got Stephon Diggs, who is in the Super Bowl this year with a totally different team. They traded a first, a third, and I think maybe some other things to get Diggs. And at that point, I loved Diggs as a player. Then I was kind of the view that he could be an elite receiver. He just needed the right ecosystem around him. But like Justin Jefferson is already proven as that tier 1 guy. So I would imagine the price would start with 2 first-round picks, and then we're going from there.
All right, so let's look at one of the other wide receivers because you mentioned everybody's got money. George Pickens, a lot of conversation now about what the Cowboys should do. Should they franchise him? Should George Pickens get a long-term massive deal? Like, how do you view Pickens?
I mean, I think if I'm George Pickens, and I don't know that I always want to get into the George Pickens headspace, but I would not be one to go anywhere. I'd be one to stick right in Dallas. I mean, there's always the idea of, hey, CeeDee Lamb's here, am I really the number one, or am I the 1B, am I the 2? Who cares? The grass is not always greener on the other side. Do you really want to? And you just experienced this. If you're George Pickens, you were the number one in Pittsburgh. How fun was that? It's much better to be this 1A, 1B tandem in a place like Dallas. So if I'm the Cowboys, also, I'm not trying to do anything but keep George Pickens here. And because of the franchise tag, fan bases are going to start looking at available free agent receivers. I'm like, oh, I see George Pickens' name there. That's really exciting. He's not going to be available. He'll probably just get the franchise tag, and the Cowboys will get to have all the headlines and all the fun stuff. And then maybe by August 28th, they sign him to a long-term deal, and we all wasted our time talking about it in the offseason.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. The Cowboys are just going to tag George Pickens. That just feels like the writing is on the wall there. And then I'll get pushed back on that, and people will say, well, he's not going to play under the franchise tag.
I mean,
what choice does he have?
Yeah, I know. It's a unfortunate reality, but it is what it is. For NFL players at this point, that's the collective bargaining agreement. That's where we're at. And until that franchise tag goes away, which it will probably never go away, this is what's going to happen to the top free agents on the market. Again, we'll put out these lists in the offseason. People will be really excited about these names. And then you can just go ahead and chop 12 names off because teams are not going to allow them to hit the market.
I mean, your point on the franchise tag is an important one because when I've talked to guys around the league, it's never going to go away because it only impacts 32 players. So you have thousands of people in the NFL Players Association. They're not all going to make sacrifices so that George Pickens doesn't get franchised. Did Micah Parsons change any of this? So, did he empower the whole, hey, I'm just going to lay on the training table in my sweats until somebody gets me the hell out of here? Does that maybe change the way we view some of that? I'm not saying Pickens is going to go full Parsons, but we don't know.
We don't know. And again, another person's headspace I definitely don't want to be in is Jerry Jones, because I would have imagined. Yeah,
true.
Yeah, the yacht that'd be sick.
Be nice.
But
just live in his yacht.
Wait, we can't all three of us together can't pinch together some money and get a yacht.
Could we be like the below deck, like the show that goes on a yacht, but we're the below deck for Jerry Jones? We just live on his yacht year round.
I actually
don't think
I think that's a bad idea.
I'm okay with that.
Give me Bravo. I want this show. I want this show. They don't want this show. They do not get cast. I want this show.
No, thank you. I'm okay.
But again, to the point, potentially something like that could happen because it is Dallas. It is weird, but I doubt it happens 2 years in a row.
We're talking about George Pickens, talking about Justin Jefferson, which he's not going to get moved. If we just want to live in the world of reality, it's fun to talk about on a sports show. Who are we not talking about enough?
That we're not talking at wide receiver specifically that might get moved this offseason. Mm-hmm. I do think Brian Thomas Jr. probably gets talked about. If I'm a team like Buffalo, that's the first call I'm making this offseason, because I think we see this happen with GMs all the time where you spend the entire last offseason, if you're Brandon Beane, literally going on the radio and being like, you guys are, I'm not going to use the word that he
used a word that sounds a lot like trucking.
Right. And this is a family show. Yahoo Sports, family company. So I'm not going to say that, but he went on the radio and he really let him know that he thought that wide receiver position was good enough. Clearly, we all had eyeballs. We saw all regular season. It was not good enough. I think sometimes you see GMs then overcorrect on that. So I think he's going to be making calls to a lot of teams, but that's the first one I would make because Brian Thomas, I think, is a good player still coming off of a down season. Probably just not an ideal fit with what they want to do in Jacksonville for whatever reason. And we could spend the next 3 hours on the show talking about that. But I think in this offense with Joe Brady, where you do have that X receiver running kind of a straight line route tree, he would fit well there. And he's still on a rookie contract, so he's affordable. I would make that call. I think he's somebody that could potentially get moved. I think A.J. Brown, it's stupid to say we're not talking about him because he makes sure we're always talking about him.
About him all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one. And then Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco. He literally was not talking to his own team. I think he's going to be an interesting candidate, but man, talk about another strange headspace. I don't know where he's at this point, and I don't know if I'd want to be the team. As somebody that's, it's not my money, it's not my job on the line, I'd be like, yeah, I'd make that call and see what's going on. If I was somebody in the other position there, I don't know. That's a tough one.
Brian Thomas Jr. one is just interesting because of the way we saw him a year ago versus how he's seen now. All right, everybody can see you on Yahoo Fantasy Forecast, obviously. You've got a lot of Radio Row stuff going on. Is there anybody you're super stoked you get to talk to this week?
Other than us.
Well, yeah, this was number one. Everything else is kind of downhill from here. Yeah, I totally understand. Michael Pittman from the Colts is one I'm interested in. He's actually a player that probably would have fit with that last question about, like, is a guy we're not talking about enough. He, at this point, could be a trade candidate this offseason, given sort of his contract, what they're dealing with Alec Pierce, who is a guy that might be able to make it to the open market and then get a ton of money in free agency. I'm curious, number one, just where Pittman's at, and number two, just kind of get a sense of that whole Colts wide receiver room, because I think it's a fascinating group to talk about.
When you figure out who the Raiders are going to acquire to be their number one wide receiver, text me.
All right, I'll do some digging, because I got a lot of players potentially here that we're talking to. I'll let you know.
Just let me know. You guys can obviously check them out, Yahoo Fantasy Forecast. Harmon, appreciate you. Enjoy the week. Stay safe, and try and get a little sleep. All right, it's early in the week. I worry about everybody late in the week. Just get your beauty rest. I need you to be the best you can be.
What a good friend. Appreciate you guys.
Look at that.
You do amazing.
I would hug you, but we're all strapped into the chairs. All right, from the NFL to the NBA, wild trade moves actually coming up this morning. Could it happen? Is James Harden about to be shipped? ... Again, we'll figure it out.
What a good
Have you ever seen such a lopsided turnout?
I'd say it sounded like an Indiana home game, but it's probably louder than an Indiana home game because the way Indiana Stadium is built is not to keep the sound in. What I'm curious about is it louder than when the Falcons are really good, one of their home games? I'm guessing
we don't have a data point on that, Andy.
I know. I was walking you into that, Falcons fan, Stephen Godfrey.
But the Brady part of this is the most interesting thing. He's kind of a part-timer there. And there's no proof of concept that Tom Brady knows how to conduct a coaching search. He was a great quarterback. This is a completely different job. Like, I don't know, other than he's a big name, and Mark Davis loves big names. The Raiders went out of their way today to mention that Tom Brady's going to be part of the search. Why? So Mark Davis could sit back and say, yeah, Tom Brady, that's my guy.
I want to see Petr Yan back, and I'm okay with if Merab is the next fight. But at some point, hopefully in 2026, maybe later, I do want to see Sean O'Malley versus Petr Yan. And I believe I had that last year. This fight has to happen at some point. I love this fight so much.
When you did speak about it last year, Yan was nowhere near.
He wasn't
the
even in the
pick. All you said was you want to see a 5-round fight between the two of them.
It's a great one.
I want to start with this disclaimer. I criticize because I care. I look at Florida State and I think Bobby Bowden, I think Peter Warrick, I think Jameis Winston, I think national titles. But you look at Florida State right now, across their own state, they're falling behind. The nature of the beast is this thing has gone sour at Florida State and it's not working. But if you care, you make drastic moves. If you care, you pay the price of caring. And the price of caring here, for my money, is buying out Mike Norvell to $58 million.
All right, sources are reporting Clippers Cavs have had advanced discussions on a James Harden-Darius Garland swap. Chris Mannix was first on it. Everybody's blowing up about it this morning. Dan Titus joining us now to try and break all of this down. So let's just start your initial reaction when you see this, Titus. You've got a lot on the line here. We talked to you yesterday about what trades could happen. Now all of a sudden the gods give us this gift. What do you think?
My initial reaction was like, where did this come from? Because we've heard the names of Giannis, Ja Morant, so many superstars, but not James Harden. He's still under contract. He's not extension eligible. So what is this about? And the thing that was really telling was like his teammates were surprised by this. They talked to John Collins afterwards. They talked to Kawhi. They're like, I don't know. I thought he was good. The Clippers are turning their season around. So, like, why would he ask for a trade now? So very bizarre. I think we kind of got tipped to this because he's been ruled out for personal reasons the last couple of games. He did have a jersey retirement ceremony, I believe, at Arizona State. So who knows what's going on right now, but clearly something's not right in L.A.
It does feel very bizarre and pretty out of nowhere, but what we have learned is that James Harden wants commitment, right? He wants more money. He wants longer term. He does have a no-trade clause. So would it make sense for the Cavs to make this move, understanding that James Harden probably isn't down for a trade anywhere that's not willing to sign him longer term?
Yeah, and I think that's where this all kind of stems from. It's like James Harden really wants to get paid. He's always wanted to get paid. This is usually how he gets his exit. Like, he called Daryl Morey a liar because he didn't pay him. So he can't make more money now. So maybe this is one of those deals that's kind of been in the works behind the scenes that we don't really know about that could be coming to the forefront. Cleveland just made a move to clear some cap space with trading DeAndre Hunter. So if James Harden potentially gets a little handshake deal, like, hey, we might throw you some dollars after this, maybe that's why he's pushing to go to Cleveland. And let's not act like Darius Garland's been super reliable, right? He hasn't played much. And I think if you get James Harden alongside Donovan Mitchell, a guy that's been having to handle so much more playmaking without Darius Garland, this could actually raise the floor for the Cleveland Cavaliers, something that we haven't said in a while.
I'm going to be honest with you. I hate this. I just look, I've been trying to be all polite and professional. I hate this so much for Cleveland. I think this is a terrible move for the Cavs. And I'll tell you why. Because to me, yeah, I agree. The Cavs are going nowhere right now. They're stuck. They're the 5 seed as we sit right now. Garland, to your point, not only hasn't been healthy, but when he has been healthy, he hasn't played at the level I think everybody wanted. Like, I see all of that. And I see the logic to wanting to make a move. But let's look at what I'm acquiring. I'm acquiring an old guy that absolutely chokes in the biggest basketball moments possible. I'm acquiring an old guy that I don't want on the court in Game 7. I'm acquiring an old guy for a second, maybe for a couple of years, that might make me good enough to get one more round into this thing, but he ain't going to make me better than OKC. He ain't going to make me better than San Antonio. He ain't going to make me Denver. So what I'm doing is I'm probably, in order to get him, committing long-term money to somebody that's older and dirt in the NBA that has shown us over and over and over again that the bigger the moment is, the more he forgets how to basketball, and he's not going to get me to a title. So I get my feels and I get my little hug of like, oh, congratulations, you're going to be more relevant the rest of the season for nothing. I don't get any closer to an actual Larry O.B., and that should be the point of this. I'd rather see Cleveland blow this whole thing up, start a rebuild, than acquire Harden, because Harden ain't going to do a damn thing for where they're trying to get to. It's just, congratulations, you got the 3 seed in the East instead of the 5. Let's all throw a parade for that, Cleveland. I'm out.
Fitz is not having this today.
Out.
Clearly
out
not.
on this.
I mean,
Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong.
I hear you on the playoff Harden. That argument is totally solid. But if we're talking about raising the floor, Darius Garland is not as good of a defender, even at his age, than Harden is at 36. This is about this team having a proven point guard who will play games. The one thing we can't say about James Harden is that hasn't been reliable. This dude's been playing every game for the Clippers. He's been holding it down for Los Angeles, more than Kawhi Leonard. He's finally figured out how to play this year. But what about all the years previous to that? So I just feel like at this point, Cleveland has to shake things up. You said it yourself. Now, does that take you to championship heights? Maybe not. But I think it's a good floor setter for a team that's been, hey, you're trying to keep Donovan Mitchell there long term, right? You have Evan Mobley. He's coming off of the calf injury. Maybe this is something that can elevate them to even making a championship, right? You get James Harden in the Eastern Conference, the landscape changes. And that's what I think that they're trying to do. And maybe for James Harden, he sees a path to a championship more likely than he would be staying in with the Clippers right now, because they have a gauntlet to go through to get anywhere close to that. So I think it actually makes a pretty good trade. And you got to look at the Clippers side of this. They're trying to get younger. They're trying to get off money. So it's kind of interesting that they would take on a Darius Garland contract that goes through 2028, but you have some youth there, which, you know, what other players are under 30-something on the Clippers that actually matter. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
The way that we have been talking about it on air and off air has been so much through the lens of the Clippers. So much of the lens of what does Harden want? What makes sense for James Harden? The way that Shams was reporting it on SportsCenter last night was through the James Harden perspective of things. Is there a world where this is far more about Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs than it is about James Harden and the Clippers/Cavs?
Seems like Donovan Mitchell's quietly applying pressure because, like, I've been wondering about this Garland-Mitchell tandem for a while, and it just hasn't worked out. Like, they flamed out last year. You're talking about flame. That was a flame out.
Yeah.
This is one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference and just completely disappeared when it mattered most. And I think when you get James Harden there, maybe that kind of changes the narrative just a bit because you have a veteran in there that's proven that can play. He does show up. So that's the thing about Harden. I feel like the narrative around him in the playoffs is kind of misconstrued a bit. Because, like, he'll win a couple of games for you. You just need somebody else to go do the other ones.
As long as it's not a game 7, they'll win.
As long as it's not a game 7. But that's why you have Donovan Mitchell there.
That's fair. You win it in 6. You don't even have to worry about
there
getting
you
game
go.
7. There we go. No, I hear that. So now, again, I feel like I drank my Haterade this morning, and I didn't. It was iced coffee. Caroline was with me. There's an element for me where I get that you want to listen to your stars.
Yeah.
But, man, we watched that in L.A. with LeBron and how'd that work out. I know he got the title in the bubble, but, like, overall, how do we view that? We're watching the Bucks melt down in front of our eyes. I know people in that organization. I've talked to people in that organization, and they will tell me repeatedly that every step of the way they have said, Giannis, what do you want? Giannis, what does make you happy? How do we keep it? And where'd we get? Like, the more they listened to Giannis, the worse things got for the Bucks. So I hear that, but also, like, man, I don't know if that works. Like, I don't know if that works in the grand scheme of things. So I feel like that's why I just feel like all you're doing is moving the decks around the Titanic. You're still sinking, but you're like, hey, the string quartet's playing over here right now. We're going to live a lot longer, but you're still going to end up in the water frozen where there's clearly room for 2 people on the little door, and you don't get let up on it. I'm just saying. Go ahead. I'm off my soapbox now. I'm anti this move.
It is a lovely soapbox.
Thank you.
1,000% it is. Well, I mean, Fitz is up on his soapbox. I see a vein popping out.
He's mad.
He's
He
mad about
want to see this happen.
It's a little warm in the studio.
We had a nice little glisten of sweat getting all worked up over here. We're talking so much about this. This has just come to fruition over the last 12 hours and some change. What's the likelihood that anything actually comes from this?
I'm reading the tea leaves here. When Chris Haynes reports about something, there's certain players, like, I'm paying attention. And the fact that it first came from Chris Manson, then Chris Haynes is saying that, hey, this is going to be done in a matter of days. Like, we only have a couple days left, so I expect something to be done probably by tomorrow. Hopefully we'll get something breaking news this soon because, like, clearly there's something wrong. They're aggressively talking to Cleveland. Who knows what other teams may even be aligned here. But I think it's to the first thing we talked about. James Harden wants his money.
Yeah.
And so if there's a handshake deal where he can get paid after this season, I think that this is pretty much a foregone conclusion. He's going to be going to Cleveland.
So what does all of this mean? Two ways of this. What does it all mean for Giannis? And that could include Cleveland, but it could also include, like, I keep hearing through the rumor mill, Minnesota's interested. Mm-hmm. So if you're Minnesota and you're watching Cleveland go out and acquire Harden, now you're saying, okay, everybody else is being aggressive. Like, if Harden ends up a Cleveland Cavalier, does that change the way the market views the urgency of Giannis?
I think to some degree, yes. Maybe it provides more competition, obviously, for the Eastern Conference. But I think where the Bucks are, they're still in aggregate assets mode. Like, we need the biggest package possible. And what I was reading this morning, it didn't sound like the Bucks are coming away overly impressed by the offers that have come in. We talked about the Warriors yesterday. If that's the best offer on the table, I think that they could still wait this out to the summer and potentially see some more action and activity around the 2026 draft, which now we know is going to be elite. A lot of great talent there. So who knows what could happen when teams get really desperate in the summer, Giannis is healthy, and they can really get a firm package for that. Because where the Bucks are right now, they're just – I don't think anything they can do is really going to force a trade in the Eastern Conference right now. But I think this is going to shake up the landscape, though. So I think this is what we need. We need a trade like this. Get Harden into the Eastern Conference. Let's get crazy the last couple of days of the trade deadline.
Do you think, two-parter, do you think that James Harden makes the Cavs a contender in the East? And do you think that Giannis makes any team in the West better than the Nuggets, better than OKC, better than San Antonio?
Cleveland would definitely be a contender, but, like, it's so hard, like, because they're –
is that because of the East, or is that because of
I think it's because of the East. I don't think it's necessarily because with the Cavs without Mobley, we got to see what that's about. You know, calf injuries have been, you know, the worst part of basketball, it seems like. You know, just never know how to treat those injuries. So hopefully he's good. If he is, you know, this is going to be a really competitive team. And who knows, they could still move Jared Allen. They have pieces to maneuver now that they've moved off of DeAndre Hunter. So who knows, Cleveland may not even be done after that, which is really interesting. But at the same time, I'm not going to anoint them over Detroit, Boston, the Sixers, New York. Harden raises the floor, but I don't know that we're saying that they're just automatically going to go to the Eastern Conference Finals.
So, point blank, you think that this trade happens?
I think this trade happens.
All right.
Yes.
And then what's that mean for the Clippers? What's that? Like, the Clippers are hot right now.
They are. They're very hot. So that's why, like, why are you asking for a trade, James? I think that's just going to be a tell that they're going to be probably going to be selling some assets in addition to that, or looking ahead to just shaving cap, because right now their cap situation isn't great. They're trying to clear the decks for 27, 28, and that's when a lot of free agents are going to become available. So I think that's when you're going to see Kawhi get off the books. You're going to get rid of Harden. You have a young point guard in Darius Garland potentially. It could be a nice time to rebuild. And let's not forget, Ivica Zubac has been also fielding offers in the trade market. Boston has looked around for him, so they could just be tearing it down. The wrong side. You're talking about Cleveland tearing it down, but it could be the Clippers actually tearing it down.
All I know is that we're going to have a Batmobile ready for you. Not a bat signal. We're just going to have the Batmobile so that when this thing breaks, we're just going to send it through the streets of San Francisco, get you back here, and then I'm sure Cavs fans will destroy me. Titus, we appreciate your help, your insight, as always, man. Thanks. It's great stuff from you.
Always.
It's going to be a wild week. Even at the Super Bowl, the NBA still gives us the drama that we love. All right, coming up, speaking of drama, did Dillon Brooks crack the Wemby code? He thinks so. Is he on something? We'll figure that out next.
What is the argument in your eyes for Cam Boozer as the first pick in the draft?
His game is just really resilient. And, with all the concerns about some of his verticality or the burst, whatever it may be, he's been incredibly productive.
It's just hard to look at Boozer and argue against the level of production from him at every single level, while he's also continued to get better at add more to his game.
And the knock against Oregon is that they've always been a step away from national championship caliber.
Dan Lanning has to build a more complete roster. And, you can say, he took all this from Kirby Smart. Well, none of what he learned from Kirby Smart actually applies anymore. He's got to do it in this era. They're still good. They're still going to be there every year. He's got to have that one right mix that comes together. And I think it will.
Jaylen Brown, what a run he's on, Moss.
I think he's earned the right to pound his chest at this point. There's just no two ways about it. And the truth of the matter is Jaylen Brown is playing like a superstar. There's no qualifications here. Like this guy is playing like one of the best players in the NBA. He's getting it done on both ends of the court.
My fight that I need to see next year is Alex Pereira versus John Jones. The history is the fact that Alex Pereira could be the first one to defeat John Jones, all due respect to Matt Hamill. And it would be a massive feather in the cap of Alex Pereira, who could then fight the winner of Cyril Gane and Tom Aspinall. If Alex Pereira is now a heavyweight, it's free and clear for you, John. And I think the UFC, as you said, would want to make a big splash this year. There is no bigger splash they could make than Alex Pereira versus John Jones.
There's always he's good, but you're going to feel the energy, good or bad. You can't just explain it. You have to experience it.
Brunson stops on a dime, launches. Oh, yeah!
Where am I at? Am I me? Where am I?
Crossover, count it, and one. Little magic from Jalen Brunson.
My goal is to win. I want to win. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to die trying.
I had my ear to the street a little bit, and this isn't public, but I know that
it might be time.
No, don't say that, bro.
I'm Jalen Brunson, and this is Boardroom's cover story.
Jalen Brunson, born to play basketball.
The latest Boardroom cover story is out this week. Features Knicks All-Star guard Jalen Brunson. You saw a little of that there. You can read the full Boardroom interview now on Yahoo Sports. Check it out. They're doing great stuff there. Always cool to be affiliated with them, and great that that's out there for you at Yahoo Sports. Be sure to check it out. And in honor of that, let's get into some NBA talk. We've already talked a little bit about the rumor mill this morning, but let's do what we love to do on this show. We call it On Target or On Something. So we'll take some different moments from the league's quotes from the league, and we'll figure out, is this on target, absolutely happening, or is the person maybe on something? We'll look at some of the biggest takes. Let's start with Dillon Brooks, who was asked about guarding Victor Wembanyama on a recent live stream, and this is what he said, quote, I have his number. Go check that out. I have his number, and he knows it, too. That's the one guy in the NBA that I have his number. And now everyone's talking about the blueprint of guarding him. Dillon Brooks unlocking the secret of shutting down Victor Wembanyama. On target or on something?
Let me just say, I would appreciate to have Dillon Brooks' level of confidence for just one day of my life. I would love to walk around just with that level of swagger that Dillon Brooks has. I admire it. But he's definitely on something. Because the 2 games where the Spurs and Suns have faced off this year, Victor Wembanyama hasn't been on the court. It wasn't since Dillon Brooks was a Rocket last February, late February 2025, that both Dillon Brooks and Victor Wembanyama were on the court. So can you really have someone's number? Can you really have shut someone down when you haven't played him in a year? And in the 3 games that Victor Wembanyama and Dillon Brooks have played, Victor Wembanyama has scored double-digit points in all 3 of those games. Yes, sure, it was a 15-point outing. It was a 14-point outing, but also Wemby dropped 30 on Dillon Brooks and the Rockets in his first meeting in the NBA. So can Dillon Brooks limit Victor Wembanyama's impact? Yeah, he showed that in 2 of their 3 meetings last season, but I also don't think that that's fair to say when you haven't played each other in an entire calendar year.
Yeah, I mean, look, Dillon Brooks is the LeBron James of trash talking, right? Like, the guy knows how to run his mouth, and it's great. It makes for great content. We love hearing it. It makes everybody yell. Players yell, media yells, everybody yells about Dillon Brooks. He's a better trash talker than he is actual NBA player. And that.
But he's the LeBron James of something.
I mean, yeah, 100%. And look, and I'll give him credit. Like, he's having a little moment right now. Dillon Brooks is playing well. But let's be real here. You mentioned the most important number. The number is 3. You've played Victor Wembanyama, a kid in this league, 3 times. So we're going to presume that you figured out the secret sauce, and we're not going to presume that Victor Wembanyama is going to study the tape on it, figure out how you're defending him, and adjust to it. I would implore anybody to go back and watch early greats, whether it's early LeBron or early Kobe, or go out on YouTube. They even have early Michael clips, and watch the way they play versus the way they play a few years into the league. Look at early Giannis, who was a twig of a person compared to who he is now. Anybody that's sitting here after 3 games saying, I got this guy mastered, like, it's a little tortoise in the hair here. It's a little early to go run in your mouth saying that you've got it all figured out when it's been a total of 3 games. Let's go next. We'll figure this out. Reggie Miller, okay? Reggie Miller out here comparing Caitlin Clark to Peyton Pritchard, okay? So he said when he was asked about Caitlin, she reminds me of Peyton Pritchard. Many of you watching are trying to figure out who Peyton Pritchard is. That's okay. On target or on something.
Oh, Reggie. What makes this even worse, because it's terrible. He's definitely on something. Like, he's on that good. We're in California. He's smoking that California good. Caitlin Clark was standing right next to him when he said that. She was on the broadcast for Lakers-Knicks, and you could tell she had a big smile on her face. And then Reggie Miller said, she reminds me of Peyton Pritchard. Wiped the smile right off of her face. There's no disrespect to Peyton Pritchard, former NBA 6th Man of the Year. No disrespect to him whatsoever. But Caitlin Clark is the Steph Curry of the WNBA. Her ability to hit from half court, her clutch gene, she can hit from literally anywhere. So no disrespect to Peyton Pritchard, but Caitlin Clark has the kind of impact in the W that the greats that are playing right now in the NBA have. So on something 1,000%. How disrespectful it is to Caitlin Clark, frankly.
How many kids right now do you think are in a middle school gym and they're giving out their best move and they float it and it goes in and they scream, Pritchard! Right? Like, that doesn't happen, right? Like, we all know that there's this, you throw any piece of trash into a trash can from a mile away, my generation, you yell Kobe, right? The new generation is yelling Caitlin. Like, there's a transcendent, male, female, doesn't matter. There's a transcendent level of Caitlin has changed the way that women's basketball is perceived by many. Caitlin has changed the level of interest in the sport overall. Even NBA fans, casuals, have to Google who Peyton Pritchard is. So, like, no disrespect to Peyton Pritchard is the proper thing to say, but all of this take is wild disrespect to Caitlin Clark, even if it's not intended that way. Like, you're right, the Steph comparison is probably the best comparison because of the way she plays, but I don't know that there's a more brand significant person to their sport than Caitlin has been since Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Like, I believe that Caitlin might be the most important brand athlete to her sport in the world. So comparing her to somebody that's like, 6th Man of the Year, huzzah, you get a trophy for that. Great. But that is not at all the same category. So Reggie Miller on something. Reggie, call me. Let's party together. I appreciate your level of party. Let's get another one in. All right. How about this? Let's give a little love to the Charlotte Hornets. Caroline Fenton, by the way, lives in Charlotte. Doug, one of our producers, also a Charlotte Hornet, mega knowledgeable. We're all in. Yeah. This show is a Charlotte Hornets show.
Hornet show.
Let's check this out. 7th straight win in a 22-point comeback victory Or the Pelicans, but still, it's still the win. It's their longest streak since 2016, and Charles Barkley changed his stance. Charles Barkley had said that they were a lock for the play-in, and now he's changing it to a playoff guarantee. Is Charles Barkley on target or on something guaranteeing the Charlotte Hornets are headed to the NBA playoffs?
On target. Chuck knows what he's talking about. 1,000% on target. When you have Con Knipple playing at a Rookie of the Year level, when you have Melo dropping 20-plus points on any given night, all of the young pieces of this Charlotte team are clicking at the most perfect time. It's no accident. You don't just win 7 games in a row in the NBA on accident. That's not a fun little coincidence. You don't just fall into that accidentally. It's because the Charlotte Hornets are putting all of these pieces together. 1,000% on target. I will 100% piggyback on that as well. I think it is a guarantee that the Hornets find themselves in the postseason for the first time in far too long.
Yeah, 100%. We're on target on this. And look, this comes back to why I frankly hate the Harden deal to the Cavs. We just talked about that. Like, I'd rather see somebody blow it up. I think it's because I'm in love with what the real process is in the NBA. Not the like first take debate show process, but the real process of building a championship team in the NBA. And it's very simple. Like, in a copycat world, the league has shown you that the right way to do it is to draft, develop, and depth. Those are the 3 Ds you need: draft, develop, and depth. And so to me, when we look at what Oklahoma City did brilliantly, draft, develop, depth. When you look at what San Antonio is trying to accomplish right now, draft, develop, depth. If you look at the Denver Nuggets, that is draft, develop, depth. What we see from the Hornets right now is absolutely right down the middle of that, right? Like, you mentioned that young core, and I think the fact that we're not sitting here talking about who the Hornets are going to acquire to bring in to push them over the top. We're not talking about any massive moves to disrupt it. What you see is a young team that's figuring it out together. And I think more fan bases need to see the Charlotte Hornets to get in modern basketball the context that trust the process doesn't mean the way that Philly screwed up the process for so long. Like, we have this concept dug into our brains that a rebuild like Philly did just means you're going to rebuild over and over and over again. You're never going to be competitive. When in fact, the right way to do this, the right way to build an NBA championship caliber team year in and year out, is to do it in the shadows when nobody's paying attention and you're just drafting young guys and letting them go out and learn. What have we seen this year? Con Kniple's playing so much better than most people would have expected. That's a huge part of this. But I think that the Hornets deserve credit for following the blueprint: draft, develop, depth. They are doing it the right way. I think they make the playoffs this year, and I think they are showing that they're about to be a team to be reckoned with for the next several years. That's because they're doing it the right way.
I don't want to say it's the right way.
I do.
Because you can win championships by finding the biggest big money free agents out there. Like, look at I know it was the bubble championship, but when LeBron and AD win a championship with the Lakers, look, that's a championship. You don't have an asterisk on a Larry O'Brien trophy because, hey, they won this championship with a bunch of guys that they picked up in free agency and traded for. So there is a path. Like, there is a formula for winning championships in the association by doing it oppositely, like acquiring assets or just pushing all of your pieces into the middle. But what I think the Hornets have shown, the Thunder have shown, the Celtics have shown with Jason Tatum is that you can do it by drafting and developing. It's not just by pushing all of this money into the middle. It's not just by, these massive big-time blockbuster trades. You still can do it, quote unquote, the old-fashioned way.
I would argue that the bubble is really the only modern example of that. The bubble and KD coming to the Warriors are the 2 things we think about.
Yeah.
Outside of that, we have Milwaukee championships. We have a Boston championship that was homegrown. Mm-hmm. We have a Denver championship, homegrown. We have last year we saw OKC taking on Indiana, homegrown. I think the league has changed. We'll find out. I mean, the more we pay attention to moves like Harden and don't pay attention to teams like the Hornets, the more it will tell us how it all plays out. But we'll find out soon. Coming up next, one of the best in the business, one of the funniest people in the world, Frank Caliendo, going to join us live on set. Can't wait for this.
Kirby may not win another national title. I think he's the best head coach in college football right now. So it sounds kind of like an oxymoron. It's not. Well, it's possible I'm wrong that he's the best. But even if I'm right that he is the best, yeah, it's possible that He won 2 of them back-to-back years, and that's it. That's what Dabo Swinney did. He won a couple, and then I don't think Dabo will ever win another national title. What does that mean? It means he's one of the best to ever do it, and he's a Hall of Famer. That's what it means for Dabo Swinney.
All right, so let's talk about fights we want to see 2026. GC, you just gave us a nice little teaser there, so why don't you go first?
My concrete one, my number one that I want to see is still remaining Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev. Whether it's at 170, whether it's Islam going down to 155, the star power that these two guys have with the run that Islam is on, with the undefeated record of Ilia Topuria, it's just a match that I am craving more than any other.
Isaiah Stewart is underrated, Sharp. Way underrated. 37% from three. It's a really good pick. People think about Isaiah Stewart as this tough guy who can shoot, good at rim finisher and all that too. But in reality this year, he's become a all defensive player candidate. He's become a great switch defender. Isaiah Stewart, one of the most underrated players in the whole league.
The NFL's so brutal, man. It's such a brutal. I thought to myself when Jonathan Gannon got fired, I thought, did they not just wish him a happy birthday? They did. They wished him a happy birthday, and then they fired him on the same day. So that's the NFL, folks. That hook is real. It's out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's bad. It's bad to be fired. He does, however, get a lovely parting gift.
You see it right there. Frank Caliendo coming to a city near you. FrankOnStage.com. You can get your tickets if you want to see the legendary comedian, master impressionist, and now two-time guest of Yahoo Sports Daily. Don't mind if we throw that into this, as we are lucky enough to get the Frank Caliendo experience live happening with us. We just saw cities. What's your favorite city to just go hang out in, Frank?
Oh, San Francisco. Because you're here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, why not? I don't really know. I grew up in the Midwest, so the Midwest is they get my humor the most, I think. But I don't know. I mix it up a little bit. So Minneapolis is one of the cities I'm biggest in. Milwaukee, because I grew up there. Chicago's pretty big. I mean, where there's NFC cities, because of me being on Fox for 9 years, I just add one, I round up. The 9 years on Fox NFL Sunday was always on before NFC games, so people would always see that. So I think that's probably the biggest cities.
Amazing to me, because I spent most of my life on a tour bus in country music before doing this, and Milwaukee was my favorite city in the country.
Really? I think Milwaukee's like, and they might get mad at this, but it's like a big town. Yeah. It's not so much like you go to San Francisco, you go to even, I guess, Los Angeles, but New York. You go and you see the big city and you're like, oh my gosh. And then Milwaukee feels more town-like. It's just, in the Midwest, people are nice to each other. It's different everywhere else. You go to the East Coast. First time I went to the East Coast growing up in Milwaukee, I was like, why is everybody so mad? Like, that's just the way it is.
I was born and raised in the Midwest, and I spent a majority of my adult life living in the Southeast. And everybody says, Southerners are so nice. Midwesterners are the kindest people I have ever met and ever encountered.
Well, I think that's just
Midwesterners love to party.
I think that's because the Southerners just take a while to tell you. It takes a while to be nice. They're really nice, but I've been told, and I don't know if this is true, so I'm basically like an X feed where you don't know if it's true or not. But it's the humidity and stuff of the South, that the climate slows things down. It's not because people are slow. It's just because everything goes at that pace. So, but the Midwest, yeah, I mean, it is party central, and I didn't partake much, but I'm not a partier. So.
I was back then, and I did, and whew, boy, the Midwest.
My kids go to Arizona State now, so my son just graduated, so that's some pretty good partying too.
Doesn't party at all, Arizona State. All right, so let's talk a little bit of football. I'm a lifelong diehard Raiders fan. It is in my blood, and so I've watched and enjoyed you for years, as you have given me some of the funniest Gruden moments. What do you think of Clint Kubiak as the head coach of the Raiders?
I tell you, the school rate from Gruden, man, I think it's going to be an offensive surprise. This is what they need to do, man. You got to get it going. Clint Kubiak, I think this is definite. They waited a little too long, though, man. What's going on? Them and the Cardinals, it took until almost the end of the hiring season. I don't even know if there is a hiring season, but it felt like it. These two teams, but hopefully they got their guys, man. I'll tell you what, we're going to find out if Tom Brady knows what's going on there, man.
So good.
So good. Figure out if Tom Brady knows the spider 2Y bananas.
Yeah, well,
I was in Italy, and Gruden just happened to be there a few years ago. Where I was in front of the Coliseum. I took a selfie, and I posted it to Instagram stories. And I get a text from Jeff Leonardo, who's Gruden's right-hand man. He goes, "Did you know John is in Rome right now?" I'm like, okay, first of all, do I have Grudar? Is it like the Force? Like, hey, there is another, man. I can feel the presence. It's strong in this one, man. So we end up going to. I text John and we go to dinner. He goes to the wrong. He set it up, but he went to the wrong place. Explain that. So we end up, and he's doing. I mean, he's just talking about stuff, but it's funny because he's almost doing plays as he's passing. You gonna pass that meatball there, man? You gonna do a little spaghetti 2Y bruschetta? Is that what this is about, man? How's that sound, huh? Let's take a look. You know what? You tried to pass the meatballs, but look at that spaghetti coming right through. It gets contained. It's all over, man.
That is incredible. And it kind of seems like you and John Gruden have developed a friendship.
Yeah, I think it's like, I asked him once, and he said, "No, I love you, man." Which is what he always said, "I love you, man." I'm like, is this like a situation where it's like, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer? And he's like, "No, man, Cindy and I, we love you. Deuce, come here, give him a hug, man." So I was just there. What you're showing right now, I just went down to the FFCA studios there, so to speak, and we opened some boxes for some friends, but it was pretty cool. He has fun with it, you know. He gets it.
Seems like a good sport about it.
Yeah, I think that's. I think he's just got that. He had me do it, with the Raiders. We did it on Hard Knocks, and we did it another time before that. I have 2 game balls. He sent me game balls. I mean, there are linemen in the NFL. There are players who've played for 10 years, never get a game ball. Idiot me, I go and I've got 2 NFL game balls because they won both those games where I gave like little speeches. Awesome. So, and I'm doing Gruden. I'm not even trying to right now, man.
Have you developed a relationship with anyone else that is that you do?
Mel Kiper Jr. has been a friend. He came out to a show. Mel's one of the best because after I did the impression of him the first time, he calls me. He's like, "Frank, the entire Kiper family enjoying everything you do. You ever been to Las Vegas? I know you did something there. Is that you did a show or some sort of thing? Let me ask you this: Blue Man Group, is that a real? Are those aliens, or are they just painting themselves blue? Because at the end of the day, I thought Smurfs were the only blue creatures that were even on this earth. So." But it was funny to have him talk about. He's never done anything besides just talk about football. That's like Mel. Only comes out one time a year. I mean, Chris Berman, I know him. I wouldn't say like greatest friends in the world, but yeah, we get along. Yeah. Adam Schefter always does that thing. I'm not sure if you sound exactly like me. I get it, but I don't quite hear it. And what he hears is the S's, because when I try to get the voice, you have to do certain things with your vocal cords in your mouth to get it to work properly. And what happens is the S's, I can't say S like he does. I think he hears that. And I think he's right, because I have to cheat. All these things are like cheats. They're like magic tricks. And how do I practice it over and over and over until I can perform the illusion in front of somebody? So sometimes they get more cartoony. Sometimes, like I'll do Schefter on helium. According to my sources, at this particular time, it appears that I am only speaking in that dogs can hear. So it's that type of thing. But most people get it. I mean, most people have fun with it.
Is there a voice that you've really tried and never really locked in?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of them. If you've never heard me do it, that's fair. That's probably one of them. Berman took me a long time. It went from Chris Berman beep beep to Al Pacino.
It was always Al Pacino. It was close, but not quite there.
I'm trying to think of Biden took a long time, but then I just zeroed in on he looks like he listens with his eyes.
Folks, come on. What are you doing with the guy with the thing? I don't have to tell you.
So I'm trying to think of in and out of sports. I mean, it's funny because you go back, if you listen to my original Madden stuff, it was way up here. Hey, folks, John Madden here. And then it became the regular speaking Madden, the one where you think you hear that he's actually talking and not somebody talking like he's talking, but it's actually John Madden talking. And now when Nicolas Cage plays John Madden, people are going to think John Madden talks like this. Boom. That guy looks like he got hit by a freight train.
So are you like, when you're working on it, are you recording it and then playing back like original?
Yeah, it's like anything. It's like if you look at it like sports, it's just like sport. It's muscle memory. So if I was a baseball player growing up, so you work on your swing, right? You do everything. You do everything the same. Golf? How do I get this to be the same? So you just teach that, but each voice is its own. I guess in golf, it would be its own club, right? So every club has maybe a little bit different of a swing, but the main part is the same. But how's the face of the club going to hit and whatever like that? So as you can tell, I only know so much about golf.
So when you're practicing these, I'm sure you're constantly going through it in your head as you're speaking. Do you ever catch yourself like having your internal monologue or your internal thoughts like as John Gruden or as John?
I don't think that happens, but my regular voice goes into other voices sometimes. That's kind of, you're just talking and you hear it. It starts happening, man. People would always say, you're talking like Jack Nicholson right now. And I'm like, why would you say that? I don't hear it one bit. It's that type of thing. So, but my own voice, when you hear the impression, you hear part of my voice in it for the most part, which was what keeps it a character and not just a carbon copy of the person. I've had people say, it's interesting because you hear differently in your head than what's out loud. And I hear things played back and I'm like, and it sounds great inside. But then there's other things I'm like, wow, that sounds way better outside of my head than it does inside. So it's always different. Did I answer the question? I think I got enough.
Yeah. So when you get really angry, like you want to tell somebody off, can you just... In my mind, if I'm at the grocery store and I'm really angry at the person that's checking me out, the way that I can actually blow off some steam is to yell at him as a voice. Like, do you just get to use? Is that your carte blanche? Like, nobody's going to get mad at you if you tell them that
I don't know if you're like, just scan the freaking milk, man. What are you doing? Come on, I've got to get this over. My kids want to have some milk and cookies, and guess what? They can't have the milk right now because you're not scanning fast enough.
I'm just imagining cutting you off in traffic and you're, effing me while I'm driving by, but you're doing it in a voice, so then I can't be mad.
Incredible. How great was that lane change? Dude did not use his blinker and went over 2 lanes. You're going to cause an accident. Not cool. If you're on the road and you have a working blinker, press the... What is that called? The shift? No, because that would downshift you.
Turn signal?
The turn signal. I guess that's what it is. Dude could not think of the word turn signal, looked for help, and got it. How great is that?
It's a dynamic tactic.
Is that what? But it would be the lever. It's a lever, right? But it is the turn signal. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what the actual physical thing is called? It never even.
That's what. That's
I think it's called a turn signal.
Yeah. I won't ask questions.
That's what I would have said, but until now, I never would have thought that it's called something different until I started to think about it too much.
Well, and sometimes you hear the voices like, a Jim Rome when you're in traffic and he just sort of angry, but then sometimes you want to mellow out a little bit and think a little Morgan Freeman in your head. So I'm going to mellow myself out.
That might be one of the greatest segues I've ever heard. Finding a way from Jim Rome to Morgan Freeman. Truth of the matter is, I didn't think she could get there. But she made it happen just as smooth as anybody who'd ever streamed on this device that you're all listening to and watching right now. Sometimes I forget that you watch and listen at the same time. Probably because of this microphone in front of me.
So how do we learn our own Morgan Freeman?
Well, the first thing you have to do is get really quiet. That's
out from anybody knows me knows that I'm just
the difficulty level.
Yeller.
10. But it would be. I always teach people to go yes. If you can, because then you'll get that vocal fry. See how you get that vocal fry. So you have to hear. You have to be getting the rumble in here. Let me do. I'll do a quick thing before I get there. So there's different ways, and singers have this type of thing. There's a nasal voice, and there's like, I don't know what it's all called because I'm too lazy to look it all up. But I take it as, and this is how I describe it to people. I take Kermit the Frog. Hi ho, Kermit the Frog here, and that's up in here, okay? Fozzie Bear is in here. Ah, waka, 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 right? So you can use those things to try and pitch a voice a certain way. The other thing is the eyes, or first, the mouth tells you how the person talks. The eyes tell you how the person thinks. So if I were doing Jeff Goldblum, yes, the eyes all of a sudden darting around like a what? A painting in a haunted house. Don't go up the stairs. The Wolfman's there. Ooh. So now we go back to Kermit the Frog, Fozzie Bear, those two voices. Hi ho, Kermit the Frog, bring it down a little bit, becomes John C. Reilly. It's right in here. So it's not up here. It's in here, but like there's a bubble in your throat. Now you add some air to it, and it's Mark Ruffalo. I see this as an absolute win. And you bring it down even more, and it becomes Paul Giamatti. I believe that is one of the silliest things I've ever heard in my entire life. Now, if you bring it back up again to John C. Reilly, and you want to put it back, it becomes Joe Rogan. Wow, Jamie, pull that up. Oh, my God, that's effing nuts. That's crazy. So they're all in there. I mean, the Fozzie Bear is also Bert from Bert and Ernie, so it's Bert, Ernie, right? So Fozzie Bear, the Kermit or the Bert laugh is you slow that down, and it's and Seth Rogen. I don't know, it sounds pretty good.
When did you realize you had a proclivity for this?
First of all, I need to know what the word proclivity means.
I
believe proclivity means you have a knack for it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Caliendo with the lack of vocabulary skills. That was a Stephen A. Smith. I understand he doesn't know the verbatim verbiage that I would have taken. I don't know. I went to school for broadcast journalism back in the day. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do and I figured, hey, I don't know what I'm going to do. I started doing stand-up. Why not? And it's worked out decently. Like if I was going to do an impression of you, there would be that you have a lip purse thing.
I've been told that I do have that. I do have a lip purse. It's something that I notice in myself and I don't like, but a caricature of myself, if you will. But I have noticed whenever you're doing a voice, I can see it in your face. It starts to change. It's in your lips. It's in the nose. It's in the way that you scrunch.
Well, and that's the part that the face tells you. Like it tells you how the person talks. You see every Donald. This is not political, but you see every Donald Trump impression that's out there. The head tilts.
The hands.
The hands go out, and we're going to play the accordion. We're going to play with the straps, the loose straps of the accordion. I do library Trump, by the way. It's the one where you have fantastic books, a lot of books, some of the best books with the greatest words. We have great words. But you see this because I say it's like making a face like you're looking into an aquarium and mimicking the fish. So you do that, and that helps you form the words. That tells you how to form the words. George Bush, whatever. Have a half smile like somebody told you a joke, man. It's good.
Barack Obama would, just look across at everybody and pause in certain words.
Another pause is Robert Downey Jr., which is basically just belching your way through punchlines.
Caroline and I both are big Saturday Night Live fans. As you did Trump, I think you watching things like that. They have so many different people that do that impression. Is it hard for you to watch people?
I try not to. That's why I do such a different Trump. I think a lot of people do. I can never remember his name because I'm an idiot. But James, who's on there, a lot of people have copied that kind of Trump. But that's the main. That's Trump more from like 8 years ago. I mean, you watch Trump's 80 years old. Biden changed from the time we all saw him to, as the vice president to the president. So people, as they get older, they tend to get more of a rasp and get quieter a lot. Trump will go to that thing sometimes, but people's voices naturally change. A lot of time it's losing the depth of it and you get a little bit more rasp, but I'm trying to think of some of the others that are even like that, but it's across the board. People change all the time.
Was there a greatest influence for you as an impressionist?
With impressions and comedy in general is Dana Carvey, San Francisco people, really, Robin Williams. A lot of Saturday Night Live people were big influences to me. Jonathan Winters was an old school. If you remember him, it's probably not this audience. But those were the people that Belushi, Farley, Phil Hartman, Lots of people that were in that world influenced me. I just like the silliness of Sandler. Just, hey, how you doing? That sounds pretty good. Let's put on some basketball shorts and go on the Tonight Show. That sounds pretty good.
Do you think, because obviously there's an art to all of it, do you think it is more difficult to impersonate somebody else, a real person that exists, or coming up with some of these fictional characters?
Well, a lot of times, I think a lot of a fictional character can be much more difficult because you have to set the parameters for who that person is. What's the point of view? An impression is basically the portrait's already been painted, so you just have to kind of mimic it. When if you look back on early Saturday Night Live characters, Linda Richmond and stuff like that, Mike Myers characters, those are impressions of people's family members. Garth and Wayne and Garth, Mike Myers, that was his brother, I believe. So it's doing an impression of somebody that nobody knows, but you're able to set it up well and put it in the scenario. A lot of Simpsons voices, and they've talked about this, a lot of the Simpsons voices are impressions that didn't quite become great impressions. They're close. Homer was Walter Matthau at the beginning. Oh. Yeah, you hear him hear talk about that. There's you listen to Mayor Quimby. He's a Kennedy. I mean, it's just lots of little ones. And there's other stuff where you just ramp it up a little bit, but that's a. So to answer your question, it depends. But I do think for somebody like me, it's harder because people are like, "Who are you doing right now? Like what famous person?" I had that at Mad TV. I would do a teacher in a sketch, I believe, and they're like, "That's Richard Dreyfuss." I'm like, "No, it's not." So it's like hard for people to get that. If I go up there, and it takes me a while to get people to listen to me and other goofy voices outside the impressions because they're like, "Who are you doing? Who are you doing?" They always want to know. And Jim Carrey did a special years and years ago where that was one of the things that drove him crazy, and it does. But as long as the checks keep cashing, what are you going to do? Just keep doing it.
Speaking of which, you guys can watch him out on tour. FrankOnStage.com is where you see the tour dates. That's how you can get out there and get your tickets. You can follow him on social media, also at Frank Caliendo. Frank, we're huge fans. It's an honor to get to.
Thanks for having me. Yeah,
thanks for hanging out with us.
And it's all over the country too. I go to Hartford next week, Hartford, Connecticut, and
is
that where you're from?
From where I live.
Oh, right. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I will.
You should come out. Hartford Funny Bone. Yeah.
I love the Funny Bone.
Funny Bone. And what else? Where else I got? I'm going
to Charlotte anytime soon.
Not yet. I'll probably be back. It snowed there the other day. I almost went
11 inches.
Hakuna Matata.
Means no worries, but it did there. That was almost Billy Crystal. How do we do those? See, you found another one that fits in there. So yeah, FrankOnStage.com. I can't remember where I am besides Hartford, but I'm in San Francisco, Sacramento, San Francisco in April, Irvine, Oxnard, and Hermosa Beach, California in April as well. Denver, Colorado in March, April. Look it up, FrankOnStage.com. You got a great graphic. I don't know why I'm talking.
I appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out.
Sure, and that's when Frank realized just let them do their show.
It's a great job for Frank Caliendo. All right, coming up next, we're going to figure out which head coaching hires actually helped their favorite teams. We'll figure that out next on Yahoo Sports Daily.
Have you ever seen such a lopsided turnout?
I'd say it sounded like an Indiana home game, but it's probably louder than an Indiana home game because the way Indiana Stadium is built is not to keep the sound in. What I'm curious about is it louder than when the Falcons are really good, one of their home games? I'm guessing it is because
we don't have a data point on that, Andy.
I know. I was walking you into that, Falcons fan Stephen Godfrey.
But the Brady part of this is the most interesting thing. He's kind of a part-timer there. And there's no proof of concept that Tom Brady knows how to conduct a coaching search. He was a great quarterback. This is a completely different job. Like, I don't know, other than he's a big name and Mark Davis loves big names. The Raiders went out of their way today to mention that Tom Brady's going to be part of the search. Why? So Mark Davis could sit back and say, yeah, Tom Brady, that's my guy.
I want to see Petr Yan back, and I'm okay with if Marab is the next fight. But at some point, hopefully in 2026, maybe later, I do want to see Sean O'Malley versus Piotr Jan. And I believe I had that last year. This fight has to happen at some point. I love this fight so much.
When you did speak about it last year, Jan was nowhere near
He wasn't
the
even
title
in the,
picture.
yeah.
All you said was you want to see a 5-round fight between the two of them.
It's a great one.
I want to start with this disclaimer. I criticize because I care. I look at Florida State and I think Bobby Bowden, I think Peter Warrick, I think Jameis Winston, I think national titles. But you look at Florida State right now, across their own state, they're falling behind. The nature of the beast is this thing has gone sour at Florida State and it's not working. But if you care, you make drastic moves. If you care, you pay the price of caring. And the price of caring here, for my money, is buying out Mike Norvell to $58 million.
The 10 hires are all out. They are all done. Every single fan base has the drug we call hope. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing as you look at the list right there of every single person that was matched with every single team. But moreover, the matchmaker, what we're going to do now is we're going to figure out what it actually means. Certainly, this is a time for everybody to have hope. I want to stress, as we have stressed many times on this show, if the first time you're watching, right now, who knows, right? But we're going to do our best with the information we have on hand to figure out a very simple category here. Is the team better, worse, or the same today than they were when they fired their coach? So a very simple premise, and then we're going to figure out as we go line by line which of these teams are in a better, worse, or the same situation. Caroline, let's start with Buffalo. Buffalo hires Joe Brady after firing Sean McDermott. Better, the same, or worse to you?
They are worse and also the exact same, but also worse and also the same. That's the only kind of analysis that you can get here on this show. I don't think that you're better because you're getting a younger coach that's never been a head coach at any level in the NFL, coming off of Sean McDermott, a guy that has seen and coached and won a lot of football games. You know, I understand that he has that relationship with Josh Allen. I understand that Joe Brady is very well respected in the room, in the building, that's Brandon Beane's guy. But I don't think that you are better because Joe Brady is your head coach and not Sean McDermott, who has so much experience in this league.
Yeah, exactly. I agree wholeheartedly. I will say that the Bills made it clear they think that Sean McDermott is the problem. I don't agree with that. So I think that at best they're the same, but they're probably a little worse as they adjust to a new culture with the new head coach. Pittsburgh, they bring in Mike McCarthy. Tomlin gone, the legend. Now we get McCarthy. Better, worse, or the same?
Yeah, they're the same. And also probably worse. The same, because if you look at Mike McCarthy and Mike Tomlin's resume, they're pretty much essentially the exact same. Now, they're different because you're going from a defensive guy in Mike Tomlin into an offensive guy in Mike McCarthy, but I don't think that you could sell me that Mike McCarthy is that much better of a head coach than Mike Tomlin was, Fitzy.
Yeah, I think for me, this one is probably in the same category. Like, I feel like it's worse because they're not going to make any change now. That gets them to a spot where they can get to a quarterback. So I just don't think you can win in the modern AFC without at least a top-level quarterback long term. That's why so many teams reach for quarterbacks in the draft. They don't have a path to that. So I agree with you. The Ravens hire Jesse Minter after firing Harbaugh. To me, this is worse because it's just wildly unknown. Like, I mean, Jesse Minter is a well-respected defensive head coach, or defensive coordinator, I should say. I take nothing away from that, but we just have no idea what this looks like. And then Declan Doyle as the offensive coordinator doesn't give me all of the good feels. So, while I understand Ravens fans are hopeful because it's just something different, I don't always think different is better. So I think they're actually worse.
I would say worse because that's how much respect I have for John Harbaugh as a coach, that I can't say that Jesse Minter, a guy who's never been a head coach in this league, is the same as what John Harbaugh has given you, or even better than what John Harbaugh has given you. John Harbaugh's won a Super Bowl in this league. Now, I say worse, but it doesn't mean I don't like the hire. Right. It doesn't mean that I don't think that Jesse Minter can or will be successful with the Ravens. I loved the hire, still do love the hire when the Ravens made it, but I can't say that the Ravens are a significantly better organization today because Jesse Minter is leading it.
1,000%. I agree with that. And again, over time, they might end up being better. But for right now, today, it feels like they're worse. And part of that is because of Harbaugh, which takes us to the Giants. The Giants are clearly better today. They're clearly better because I don't think Brian Daboll was a very good head coach. And I do think that John Harbaugh is a good head coach. Maybe you can have an argument that his voice had gotten stale with the Ravens. Maybe everybody needed to change. That doesn't change the fact that Harbaugh's still Harbaugh. Like, I love this hire for the Giants. I feel like they've made the solidifying hire that they need to really help the organization. It will give them some level of at least it raises the floor to a level that I think they're much better.
They're definitely better. I've always felt like, especially last year, the Giants were a good coach and injuries away, or avoiding injuries away from being a competitive football team. I thought the Giants were much better last year, got derailed by injuries, and then now you add a guy with the pedigree of John Harbaugh. 100%. The Giants should feel great about the position that they're in.
It might also have a pedicure. I wouldn't judge that. The pedicures are a
If
delight.
you want to get a pedicure,
I love getting.
Yeah, your toes are going to look amazing.
There's never a world where I don't want a pedicure. How about the Falcons? Kevin Stefanski, the new hire, Raheem Morris, the fire. Better, the same, or worse to you?
I think they're better. I thought that it was a mistake for the Browns to move on from Kevin Stefanski. I never looked at the issues in Cleveland and said, man, those are all Kevin Stefanski's fault. I thought there was a much larger Browns issue with the Browns than there was ever a Kevin Stefanski issue. So I think the Falcons are better because they have the caliber of coach and Kevin Stefanski in the room.
The problem for me is that no matter who coaches the Falcons, they still can't get it together. So I think they're the same because organizationally, I just don't think that they know how to put people in a situation to succeed. I don't trust the Falcons, even though I do agree with you, Stefanski is a hire that I like. I just think they're kind of the same. The Dolphins get Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator from the Packers, after firing Mike McDonald, which is the ultimate, I only date people of this, so now all of a sudden I date somebody that looks exactly the opposite to me. But I think they're worse. And that's just because at some point, it's not because I thought Mike McDaniel was great. It doesn't mean that I think that Hafley is bad. It's just we have no idea. This was such a weird hire to me.
Sometimes in this job, Fitzy, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and this is where I'm going to fold. I have no idea. I have no idea if the Dolphins are better. I know they're different. They have a new general manager who brought in a guy who he was familiar with from the Packers organization. Jeff Hafley was a very well-respected defensive mind. I don't know if they're better. I don't know if the Dolphins are now all of a sudden poised to go on a run. I think they have a much larger quarterback situation, a much larger quarterback issue. What are you going to do with Tua moving forward? Is Jeff Hafley the right guy to figure that out in the short term? I don't know. Maybe he is. Frankly, Fitz, I don't know.
That's a fair answer. The Titans hire Robert Saleh. I have them as better simply because I think Brian Callahan might turn out to be one of the worst head coaching hires we've seen in the last 20 years in the NFL. So congratulations, by simply not getting the worst, you've gotten better. And that's a backhanded compliment Titans fans are going to hate. But, hey, there is some reason for hope there. We've given them a lot of credit on this show for winning this hiring cycle in the eyes of many with Saleh and a solid choice at offensive coordinator. I think they're better. But that's also because the floor was so low.
Yeah, I always caution football fans in saying it couldn't get worse. It can always get worse, but I mean, the Titans, it was pretty bad to get worse than what the Titans had. I'm going to say right now, for the same reason that you said the Falcons are about the same, I'm going to say the Titans are in the same situation because I do think that Robert Saleh is a better coach than Brian Callahan was. I do think bringing Brian Daboll in the building, guy who believes in Cam Ward, I do think in a way that they're better, but I still don't trust the ownership situation with the Tennessee Titans. I still don't know if Cam Ward is the answer at starting quarterback. So I'm going to say the same until proven differently with the Titans.
I think we agree the Browns, who fired Kevin Stefanski, a coach we've already talked about liking so much, to hire Todd Monken, feel like they're worse right now, in part because now they're going to have to figure out what their defensive coordinator situation looks like. They get a coaching hire that I think leaves some questions. We have no idea what they're doing at the quarterback position. I just feel like the Browns today are weirdly worse than they were in November.
I agree, and I can't say that I think the Falcons are better with Kevin Stefanski and then in good faith turn around and say that the Browns are the same or better, with Todd Monken and without Kevin Stefanski. So I'm going to say that the Browns are in a worse-off situation. I don't know how much that has to do, frankly, Fitz, with Todd Monken and how much that has to do with not having Jim Schwartz in the building. I think it's a mix of both. Because I do think that Jim Schwartz is a massive part of this equation, but the Browns are worse off today, and that's pretty bleak.
Yeah, that is. I think the Browns are the leader in the clubhouse for the first pick in the draft next year. Cardinals hire Mike LaFleur. Better, worse, or the same? I'm going to give them a better here just because I don't think it can go much worse than it did with Jonathan Gannon. It just felt like that thing was failed from day one to me. It never really came together. They never had an identity. I don't even know what we're supposed to say about the Jonathan Gannon chapter. It's just forgettable. So to me, they're better simply because they have a little bit of injection of hope, and I just think Gannon was the wrong guy from the outset.
I think they're about the same at this point, same but different, because now you're bringing in Mike LaFleur, an offensive-minded guy, after coming off of Jonathan Gannon, a defensive-minded guy. So, yes, it's different in theory, but also I think it's just a lot of the same. And again, it's kind of the same thing with the Dolphins. Prove me wrong. Like, look, Mike LaFleur could be a great head coach in this league. We have a really good track record of Sean McVay offensive coordinators being successful head coaches in the National Football League. But until I see any reason to think differently, I don't know what Mike LaFleur is going to look like as a head coach. So for that, I think that the Cardinals are just kind of the same.
All right, so where are you the last hire on my beloved Raiders?
I think they're better. I think the Raiders are better. I can't talk about Clint Kubiak being one of the most highly sought-after coaches in this coaching cycle and then say, the Raiders are the same. I think they're so much better with Clint Kubiak. I think having a young, offensive-minded guy in the room, probably a guy, if I could assume, was handpicked by Tom Brady. I think just the level of hope, Fitz, that I see that you have for your team makes the Raiders better today than they were 2 days ago.
Yeah, I think you're right. I've gone back and forth on this a lot. I will say this. In fairness, to be consistent, the Raiders screw up everything. So the real answer is probably they're the same.
Said it, not me.
Yeah, that's facts. The real answers are probably the same because it always goes swirly. And I'm going to be honest at a level many people aren't. I didn't think the Pete Carroll hire was going to turn into a disaster. So I'm trying to be a little consistent here and acknowledge that the organization screws it up more than anything. That being said, Clint Kubiak with Fernando Mendoza, to me, and a very clear structure of who's in charge of what within the organization is something that didn't have. So feel good about where they are headed. Speaking of the Raiders, Maxx Crosby is out here giving you all sorts of strange tweets. What's it mean? We'll read the tea leaves next on Yahoo Sports Daily.
What is the argument in your eyes for Cam Boozer as the first pick in the draft?
His game is just really resilient. And, with all the concerns about some of his verticality or the burst, whatever it may be, he's been incredibly productive.
It's just hard to look at Boozer and argue against the level of production from him at every single level, while he's also continued to get better at add more to his game.
And the knock against Oregon is that they've always been a step away from national championship caliber.
Dan Lanning has to build a more complete roster. And, we can say, he took all this from Kirby Smart. Well, none of what he learned from Kirby Smart actually applies anymore. He's got to do it in this era. They're still good. They're still going to be there every year. He's got to have that one right mix that comes together. And I think it will.
Jaylen Brown, what are Ronnie's on was?
I think he's earned the right to pound his chest at this point. There's just no two ways about it. And the truth of the matter is Jaylen Brown is playing like a superstar. There's no qualifications here. Like this guy is playing like one of the best players in the NBA. He's getting it done on both ends of the court.
My fight that I need to see next year is Alex Pereira versus John Jones. The history is the fact that Alex Pereira could be the first one to defeat John Jones, all due respect to Matt Hamill. And it would be a massive feather in the cap of Alex Pereira, who could then fight the winner of Cyril Gane and Tom Aspinall. If Alex Pereira is now a heavyweight, it's free and clear for you, John. And I think the UFC, as you said, would want to make a big splash this year. There is no bigger splash they could make than Alex Pereira versus John Jones.
Maxx Crosby tweets out, ships that wait for the perfect winds never sail, along with 1%, an eagle, and a diamond. Now, that leads to all sorts of interpretations because that comes right as the Raiders hire Clint Kubiak as their new head coach. And this is what we do. Every single time there's any piece of news with the Raiders and Max posts anything, everybody turns it into something. I think it's important to acknowledge as we start this conversation, Max is someone I consider a close friend. So I want to be honest about that as we have this conversation. That being said, Maxx Crosby has loudly told the world on his own podcast, when I have something to say, you'll hear it from me. You don't need to hear it from anybody else. Anything you hear about what I want from anybody not named Maxx Crosby isn't true. I have a podcast. If I have something to tell you, I will tell you. I see this. Everybody sees this in Carolina. They freak out because what's it mean for the future of Max and the Raiders? And my answer is nothing. Like, ships that wait for the perfect winds never sail is the sort of motivational quote that Maxx loves. He's that guy that reads Kobe quotes. He's that guy that sort of like, he's the always looking for the little extra edge and a little extra piece that can push him to be the best that he can be. He's a 1%er. Every day he wants to be 1% better. He's driven by that. We take all of it to mean something about the Raiders. And I think sometimes what we forget in this situation is that Maxx can just be talking about Maxx.
I hear you there in saying that not everybody is A.J. Brown. Right. Not everybody is going to be, reading a book on the sidelines in order to send a message. And you know Maxx far more than any of us in this room would know. But I'll play devil's advocate here. I'll look at it from the other side of maybe a frantic Raiders fan that's desperately trying to decipher exactly what this would mean. We just had Frank Caliendo on. I need Frank Caliendo to come back and do his best Nicolas Cage, national treasure impersonation, trying to decipher whatever this code might mean. I'm trying to figure out what this could mean within the context of Maxx Crosby and his satisfaction with the Raiders. Ships that wait for the perfect winds never sail. In a way, Fitz, I'm kind of interpreting that as if I'm constantly searching for the perfect situation, I'm never going to be happy. You could also search. You could also, look at.
Raiders take. That's a pro Raiders take.
It's a pro Raiders take.
We're pro Raiders on it.
Have enough pro Raiders takes here on the internet.
Let's go.
I'm trying to help out Raiders fans everywhere. On the other side, you could read for it to be like, if you're just waiting here with the Raiders for so long, trying to find the most perfect situation to come to fruition here with this team, you're never going to be happy. So look elsewhere. Like, I think that we could all tie our brains into knots and little pretzels trying to figure out, is this pro Raiders? Is this anti-Raiders? Is this just something that Maxx found on Pinterest and thought, you know what? That's dope. I'm going to post it. Whatever you want to believe, this is, I think, confirmation bias in its highest form. If you think that Maxx wants to stay, you'll interpret it that way. If you think that Maxx wants out, you'll interpret it that way. And if you know Maxx the way that you know Maxx, it's just like, hey, this quote's dope. And I love the diamond emoji.
Look, there's something about it to me that is very simple. But that being said, I think the real part of this, to your point, is that there's a group of people that want Maxx Crosby to play for their favorite team. There's a group of people that want Maxx Crosby to go somewhere where he can actually win. There's a group of people that want to see Maxx stay with the Raiders. And there's a group of Raiders fans that don't want to hear any of it. And to me,
all valid.
Right, that's the biggest part of it, is that every ounce of that is real. But also, for the first time in my entire time covering Maxx, I would say that all of those situations are weirdly a win. Like the first time I met Maxx, we were getting tattoos together in Vegas, and it was for an interview piece for ESPN. We spent 4 or 5 hours together in the chair getting ink done and just talking about life. And from that moment, I just knew he's wired different and he's special. I think the number one part of this is like whatever happens with Maxx Crosby this offseason and the Raiders can be a benefit for everybody. Look, if he comes back to play for the Raiders next year, if everything's fine, this is a sign that he's really happy, nothing changes. Great. You need his presence on the field, and I think you need his presence in the locker room. I love the opportunity to have Maxx Crosby in the locker room, establishing the culture of what it looks like, because people that have played with him, that have played all over the NFL, will tell you afterwards, Maxx is one of those guys that makes you look in the mirror and ask yourself, am I pushing hard enough? Maxx is one of those guys that pushes everybody around him to be better. So I think if he's there, obviously we've seen the result on the field. Obviously we know he's a great player, and obviously he's great for the locker room. If he's not, if he wants out, if the Raiders decide that, hey, this is a long-term rebuild, I also think that's healthy. Like, I want Maxx to go wherever Maxx is happy. And if Maxx needs to go somewhere else to win a bunch of games and win a Super Bowl, and the Raiders get a haul of picks in return, sure, they may not use those picks well. Most bad teams don't. But in this new regime, your hope is going to be, hey, we get just a whole sack full of picks. We're going to use that to help the rebuild. The fear I have is that if everybody just sits here and keeps running it back this way year in and year out, what you end up with is you've got this situation where Maxx is past his prime and the Raiders are finally decent, and now there's no value in it. That's a few years down the road. So I would just implore everybody that wants something for Maxx or for the Raiders here to understand that I think for the first time ever, it's win-win. It's win-win for the team. It's win-win for Maxx. Whatever Maxx wants, I think the team will honor and respect. And in that process, I just feel like if he's a Raider this fall, then I'm happy because I got his jersey hanging up in my office because I love the dude. If he's not a Raider this fall, I want him to win a bunch of football games because I've got his jersey hanging up in my office and I love the dude. Like, I think it can all be a win.
You're the Raiders fan. Yeah. You have the Raiders tattoo. You have the Raiders helmet behind you in your home office. What do you want the Raiders to do? take your friendship with Maxx out of it, because I know that's a big part of it as well, just for you and your own personal feelings. What's the best thing that the Raiders can do moving forward?
I want Maxx to be a Raider. Like, I love my team sucks. And it has been tough to watch the Raiders for the last several years. You know it's not tough? Turning on the TV and knowing I'm going to get Maxx, right? Like, I'm going to watch that. The number of times I have texted him after a game and said, we suck, but it's amazing to watch you. You know, and I think that that's a gift. To me, I can watch individual greatness and see it for the gift, right? And so I don't, like, in a perfect world for me, Maxx never plays for another team. Somehow, some way the Raiders get it together. Everybody wins, and I can celebrate, you know, I can have a cigar with him in a Super Bowl. Like, that's a perfect world. I don't know if that's ever going to come to fruition. I think this is a really key turning point, though. A new coach walks into the building, right? He's heard new coaches over and over and over again say, we're going to reestablish. Like, he's heard the same spiel from everybody. I thought the body language when he was at the Pete Carroll press conference was telling to the fact that he's like, heard this before, right? Like, so I don't know how he's going to respond to a new regime, but my hope as a fan is that it is truly this come-together moment where he sees something different, he feels something different, and he can help be part of what pulls this franchise out of the basement.
I hear you. And I am always of the belief that teams don't get better by trading great franchise cornerstone players. Period. Point blank, period. I also don't think that the Raiders are going to enter this next era if they don't do everything in their power to protect Fernando Mendoza. Everything about the Raiders' future is tied up into Fernando Mendoza. Throw Clint Kubiak out the window, throw Tom Brady out the window. It's all about Fernando Mendoza. And that's not Raiders specific. That's every team in the National Football League that is drafting and developing their quarterback of the future. So I'm kind of looking at it that if Maxx Crosby is your ticket to building up the offensive line, getting some of those draft picks, giving Fernando Mendoza more pieces around him offensively, I would have to do it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I lived through the Khalil Mack trade. Yeah. And the Khalil Mack trade will always be something to me that just sort of breaks my heart. It never worked, right? So you're 1,000% right. But
there's no guarantees.
I think the other side of it is Fernando Mendoza having Tom Brady be his Alex Smith, his person that, you know, Patrick Mahomes, I say all the time, credits Alex Smith for teaching him how to be a pro. For me, Fernando Mendoza having Tom Brady in his ear saying, here's how you structure your week. Here's the way you should eat. Here's the way you should train. Here's how you break down the film. Like having that on one side and having Maxx in the locker room every day saying, here's what it takes to be the best. Like Fernando Mendoza has told the world he's addicted to winning. I don't think there's a better person he could hitch his wagon to than Maxx Crosby to show him what it's like. Because I will never forget, I was sitting with Maxx when he got his first massive deal. And I said, what did you do the day after you got the money? And he said, I went to the gym at 4:30 in the morning because that's what he does every day. I want that around Fernando Mendoza. All right, we got plenty that we're going to get into next, including trying to figure out how to make the best of the fan experience. It was my tryout, maybe? I don't know, 40-yard dash coming up you do not want to miss.
Kirby may not win another national title. I think he's the best head coach in college football right now. So it sounds kind of like an oxymoron. It's not. Well, it's possible I'm wrong that he's the best. But even if I'm right that he is the best, yeah, it's possible that he won 2 of them back-to-back years, and that's it. That's what Dabo Swinney did. He won a couple, and then I don't think Dabo will ever win another national title. What does that mean? It means he's one of the best to ever do it, and he's a Hall of Famer. That's what it means for Dabo Swinney.
All right, so let's talk about fights we want to see 2026. GC, you just gave us a nice little teaser there, so why don't you go first?
My concrete one, my number one that I want to see is still remaining Ilia Topuria versus Islam Makhachev. Whether it's at 170, whether it's Islam going down to 155, the star power that these two guys have with the run that Islam is on, with the undefeated record of Ilia Topuria, it's just a match that I am craving more than any other.
Isaiah Stewart is underrated, Sharp. Way underrated. 37% from three. It's a really good pick. People think about Isaiah Stewart as this tough guy who can shoot, good at rim finisher and all that too. But in reality this year, he's become a all defensive player candidate. He's become a great switch defender. Isaiah Stewart, one of the most underrated players in the whole league.
The NFL's so brutal, man. It's such a brutal. I thought to myself when Jonathan Gannon got fired, I thought, did they not just wish him a happy birthday? They did.
hey.
They wished him a happy birthday, and then they fired him on the same day. So that's the NFL, folks. That hook is real. It's out there.
I mean, it's bad. It's bad to be fired. He does, however, get a lovely parting gift.
We're in downtown San Francisco. It's the Super Bowl experience presented by Jersey Mike's. I'm excited. Let's have a little fun.
It's Super Bowl week. Let's kick it off right. Let's walk down the history of the NFL, Fitzy, shall we?
Yahoo Sports Daily!
There you go. That was the Super Bowl experience presented by Jersey Mike's, and what a time it was.
You say Super Bowl experience. I thought that was my tryout, like my NFL tryout. Like, how'd I do?
You did amazing.
Oh, I felt like
Number one overall.
You know what, Kubiak? If you want to call me, I'm available. Oh, there's nothing like sitting there screaming Fernando.
The cinematic voice crack, though,
Thank
that just
you.
added another level of desperation for your guy.
Yeah, congrats. Thank you so much. Hutton did a great job editing that together. We really appreciate all of his work putting that together. Had a lot of fun, and thanks everybody for letting us check it out before it was all open to the public. And Ishmael, killer camera work on it too. So Ish did a great job. So I think, maybe our athletic ability.
Speak for yourself. Okay. Just so everybody knows out there, they slowed that down way down. I mean, we were sprinting. Pretty sure I clocked in at a 4.3. So call me.
Yeah, well, they slowed her down. I was live speed. All right, we have breaking news here at Yahoo Sports Daily. Got to get to. We have an NBA trade that is out there. We wondered what trade deadline would give us, and this is some of the first action we're seeing. The Memphis Grizzlies are trading star forward Jaren Jackson Jr. And some other pieces to the Utah Jazz for Walter Clayton and some salary match pieces, and most importantly, 3 future first-round picks. That Shams is tweeting out, giving everybody the details and all of the names involved. Caroline, I'm stunned. If you had told me coming into this week who I did not think Memphis would put out there, it was Triple J. Like, I thought that Jaren Jackson Jr. was going to be the building block that they kept in an attempt to try and build around him moving forward. And instead, Jaren Jackson Jr. gets sent to Utah, and Memphis sends a very clear message to the NBA that they are in full rebuild mode because 3 first-round picks in this. Now we just wonder what's next for Ja.
3 first-round picks and a rookie in Walter Clayton, that is who they can build around moving forward. And I'm with you. We've talked a lot about will Memphis be active at the trade deadline. We haven't really talked about the Grizzlies as a whole as much as we've talked about John Morant. We thought that John Morant would be the piece that could be traded at the trade deadline. There is still time. So with the Grizzlies moving Jaren Jackson, and I'm with you, I thought that if the Grizzlies were going to pick one piece to build around moving forward, it was Jaren Jackson Jr. So now my question is, what are they going to do with Ja? I don't think that this is a move that's made completely and totally independent of Ja Morant. Can we still see potentially Ja Morant get moved and have Memphis continue to accumulate assets until Thursday at the trade deadline? Because clearly, like you mentioned, they are all in on the future, on getting younger, dumping salary, and accumulating picks over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I mean, to that point, yesterday when we were talking all of this with the Athletics' Nick Friedel and Dan Titus, one thing we talked about with Ja, particularly when they said they didn't think Ja would be going anywhere, is it doesn't look like there's any real market for him. I think what we're seeing is that the Grizzlies realized throughout this process that clearly there isn't a great market for Ja, but there was a great market for another piece. So Jaren Jackson Jr. goes to Utah. You saw it right there. We have a 27 first rounder. We have two 27 first rounders involved in this and a 2031 first rounder. So 2 picks in 27, I think, is substantial. Obviously, this starts a rebuild. And so now, to your point, are they willing to let Ja go for less than they may have wanted, knowing that they just picked up 3 first-round picks in the process for Jaren Jackson Jr.? One thing we will do on this show all week is keep you updated on the NBA news because the trade deadline wildly is Thursday, so don't forget about that. In the meantime,
Though, for Memphis.
If
I had to pick a winner of this trade just right now, I think it's Memphis.
Oh, 100%.
Get Walter Clayton and 3 first-round picks. More than I thought that Jaren Jackson could have come in there on the trade market.
And Jaren Jackson, the loser in this trade, because you go from, you go to Utah, where right now I just don't know. I don't know what the plan is for Utah to make them relevant anytime soon. Also, a massive lifestyle adjustment, one way or the other, going from Memphis to Utah. We also have some news in the NFL we want to get you caught up on. The New York Giants have hired an offensive coordinator. That coordinator, Matt Nagy, the former offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously former Bears head coach. We're all very familiar with Matt Nagy. He's a name that was everywhere during the cycle. I don't know that any fan base loved it when he was everywhere. I don't know how to feel about this for Giants fans because, frankly, Matt Nagy was not – Andy Reid had him in the building and let him walk out the building. That, to me, just like I said with Ben Johnson, anytime a great offensive mind lets an offensive mind out of the building and doesn't really put up a fight, I think that tells you something.
Yeah, I think that Andy Reid deserves the benefit of the doubt for us to say, okay, well, if Andy Reid didn't totally and completely believe in Matt Nagy, then why should I? Independent of everything that went wrong in Chicago, although that is a big part of the story. The Giants offensive coordinator position I thought was a fascinating one because there wasn't one coach that I thought was a perfect fit that could realistically end up in New York. I thought that Charlie Weiss Jr., Jackson Dart's former offensive coordinator at Ole Miss, would have been a slam dunk hire. He said he was going to stick in the college ranks. I'm fascinated, though, Fitzy, that Matt Nagy got this job, yet Cliff Kingsbury is still out on the street. I thought Cliff Kingsbury was another one that would have been a slam dunk in Baltimore. That he's not in Baltimore. I thought that he could have been a great fit with Jackson Dart, with that run game with Cam Scatterbo, giving him one of the best weapons in the National Football League in Malik Neighbors. So what does that say about Cliff Kingsbury? Are we overvaluing Cliff Kingsbury in his offensive acumen? He's got a pretty solid, repertoire and a pretty solid resume. So why is Cliff Kingsbury still out on the street, but Matt Nagy, a guy that we have a lot of questions about, now taking over a very highly coveted position in New York?
Yeah, and what is Cliff Kingsbury looking for? Especially because I think we sort of gloss over the curiosity of Cliff Kingsbury deciding to leave Washington. He wasn't fired from Washington. He decided to leave Washington. Now, does that mean that he thought it was sort of a dumpster fire? Does that mean that he just didn't love what he saw from Jaden Daniels behind the scenes? I don't know, but I think the rookie year, particularly the development Cliff Kingsbury did with Jaden Daniels, was one of the most special things about what we saw that year. He sort of unlocked the offense a week at a time, and it was a really beautiful structure that I think other offensive coordinators should copycat with young quarterbacks. So I guess I just presumed, especially we're giving a lot of benefit of the doubt in this entire process to Harbaugh, and I just presumed that Harbaugh would have a backup plan that felt solid for whatever you didn't get when he obviously presumed he was going to go with Todd Monken. Todd Monken gets the head coach's job. So, I just don't know necessarily what the plan is for Cliff. I don't know why Cliff, where he's going to go. Also, he's made so much stinking money in his life. It's not the first time he could take a year off. I don't know, but Matt Nagy is just, we both have a lot of familiarity with the Titans. There was a rumor at one point that Nagy was going to be the Titans offensive coordinator. I watched that fan base just lose their minds.
Freak out.
I can't be clear. I don't think most fan bases are excited about the concept of Matt Nagy. So as excited as Giants fans were about the hire of Harbaugh, I always say the most telling thing about a new coach in any situation is the staff he puts together. This is at least worth raising your, I think.
Because there's a difference between being the offensive coordinator under Andy Reid and under John Harbaugh. I mean, Andy Reid is an offensive mastermind. John Harbaugh's coordinators are going to have total and complete ownership over their respective sides of the ball. John Harbaugh isn't an offensive or a defensive guru. He's just a really good head coach. So can Matt Nagy totally and completely own that side of the ball and execute to the level that I think we all have the expectations for the Giants this year? I expect once everyone gets healthy, Scadaboo, Neighbors, Jackson Dart, I expect the Giants to take a pretty massive leap forward. And then you bring John Harbaugh into the mix, those expectations skyrocket. Can Matt Nagy deliver on his side of the ball? That's my question.
You're right. I think it's fair to say when you have landed one of the biggest names in the cycle, somebody that's known for stability, and you have the talent that you've just mentioned, I think it's fair that the expectations are absolutely through the roof. So I don't know how Giants fans are going to feel right now. I just know that everybody can't wait for the season to start. Don't forget, Yahoo Sports Daily will be with you every single day, 9 to 11 this week, Pacific time, different time than usual. But also importantly, Yahoo Sports has got live shows from you all day from San Francisco. Don't go anywhere. Come back and see us tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz, thanks for hanging out.